And we are live. Welcome to Tonight in America. I'm your host, Donterius Jones. I want to welcome you to the show today. We have an exciting show, and we're back here tonight for you on a Thursday, January the 8th, 2026. I want to welcome you guys to the show. Sorry about it took me so long to come on the show right now. I literally was just getting ready for the show. So now we can officially begin right now. I can see we got ourselves an audience right now. I'm starting to think this might be the most appropriate time to go live at 1 p.m. If you think this is a good time to go live at, write down in the chat right now, or give me a one in the chat and just let me know if this is a good time to go live at one. Because usually I'm used to going live at 8 or 11, but 1 p.m. seems to be a good time. So I might make this my official time slot going forth. But tonight we're covering breaking news in Minnesota. The shooting that happened in Minnesota involving an ICE agent and a pedestrian, a lady named let's see, what was her name again? I keep forgetting her name. Renee Nicole Good. So we're going to go over the facts, the timeline, and everything involved, and we're going to break it down exactly what exactly happened. And is the ICE agent wrong, or was it the woman that was about to ram him over with a car in the wrong? So we're going to go over everything right now. I have some articles and some videos pulled up. We're about to go through, we're going to listen to the mayor, Jacob Fry, speak about this. We're going to listen to the governor, Tim Walz. We're going to listen to Kristi Noem. We're going to listen to Donald Trump's reaction. We're going to get everyone's reaction right now. This is our only feature story tonight. This is the only thing we're covering today because it's a slow news week. I'm going to be real. There's nothing really else to really cover. So we're going to just dive into this. So now we're going to jump right on into it. Since I got myself a nice, sizable audience today. I want to welcome you guys to the show. If you're watching it for the first time live, I want to welcome you to Tonight in America. This is the official live broadcast, and I'm glad everyone's catching it. Okay, so this is from ABC5. So this is when the news story broke, of course. ICE agent shoots, kills woman in Minneapolis. So as you can see, this is Renee Nicole Good right here, a 37-year-old woman who was shot by a U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement agent on Wednesday morning has died, according to several officials. She was identified by the city council as Renee Nicole Good. Late Wednesday night, officials, according to several officials, she was identified by the city council as Renee. Well, I already read that part. Late Wednesday night, council member Jason Chavez posted a GoFundMe for the victim's family, which includes her son and wife. Interesting. So, okay. So she's apparently was, I got her story. I was reading through a bunch about her story the other night. So apparently this woman here is a single mom because according to the story that I've read and all the details that I went over, the husband on the child apparently died years back under mysterious circumstances. No one actually knows exactly how he died. That's one thing I can't get verified. But she was a single mom, and now she is a lesbian. Currently speaking, she was involved. Well, she was in a marriage with another woman, of course. So, but I'm just giving you like her backstory so that way we can know all the details going in. Now we're gonna go and break it down from here on out. So as the article goes on, the encounter happened around 9:40 a.m. near the intersection of 34th Street and Portland Avenue in South Minneapolis. In a statement, Assistant DHS Secretary Tracy McLaughlin said Reuters blocked U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement with a car and allegedly tried to run them over, something she called an act of domestic terrorism. That's when an ICE officer opened fire and killed the woman. So let's go ahead and before we go into more articles, let's go ahead and have Fox News right here give us the breaking story when it broke just the other day.
We do. So earlier this morning, Minneapolis was the site of an ICE officer-involved shooting. We've preliminary information that has been coming out know that allegedly the woman who was shot was a woman, according to Mike Tobin, who is there still on scene. Mike Tobin, if you're there, let's get the latest from you. Okay, so we're going to bring it back to the couch as we talk about this. Harris, you were monitoring the tweets that were coming out from leadership there in Minneapolis, and it seemed that immediately upon learning of this ICE-involved shooting, we do know that all ICE agents are safe, but that leadership there was tweeting out about getting ICE out of Minneapolis, although Mike Walls allegedly has urged people to stay calm. What are your thoughts as this develops?
Well, leaving the politicians doing what they often do, Emily, I'll get to that in a second. But with this situation, just consider the backdrop here. You've got a state that's steeped in fraud. You've got federal agents on the ground arriving this week, taking a look at the $9 billion. And some have said that's a modest number. We'll see as the investigations, plural, shake out. We know that the U.S. Congress and the oversight chairman, James Comer, they're looking at this. They are bringing in people. So you've got that going on there. You also have a situation that Sandra just mentioned to me, too, where you've seen a lot of police officers leave. I mean, it's not a friendly place for cops. And because law enforcement isn't allowed to do its job. And so you've had a whole lot going on in the backdrop of this. And why is that important? All eyes on Minnesota right now. You have ICE agents on the ground trying to do what the president.
If many of you are not aware, Minneapolis pretty much is the place where George Floyd died at in 2020. If many of you are not aware of this George Floyd story, of course, it's made nationwide news. That started a massive protest, which led to a bunch of riots, to where a bunch of, property damage in the thousands pretty much acquired, because people destroyed so much property, so many small businesses, because they wanted justice for what they thought was a cop involved killing of George Floyd. I mean, everyone to this day, we're still having debates about, did he actually die from the knee and the neck, or did he die from the fentanyl that was in the system? But I'm not here to dispute that right now or debate that. I'm here to just give you the rundown of exactly what Minneapolis is like. This is Minneapolis right here. So this, as she said, is correct. Minneapolis is not friendly to law enforcement at all. They don't like law enforcement, especially ICE agents. So as you know, Minneapolis has a spotlight on there because of this massive fraud case that's going on right now in the state of Minneapolis, because there's a massive fraud scam going especially in the Somali community. It's being disputed right now. Is the fraud happening exclusively in the Somali community? Which, in some cases, yeah, there can be argument that yes, it is happening a lot in the Somali community, even though the ringleader of Feed Our Future was a white woman, of course. But let's be real right now. They're trying to put the pin on the white woman as if she is the one that thought of the scheme at all, which we don't really even have verification that she was. They're all just putting the blame on her and just saying that she was the ringleader and decided to go along with the scheme and concocted it up pretty much in her own train of thought, which again, I don't have verified sources that she was the one exclusively to just think of that idea of the big massive fraud scheme came from her mind alone. Because all the other people that were charged in the Feed Our Future Foundation scam, the majority of them were all Somali. There was only one white woman, and they're all putting the blame on her. So, but that's the type of stuff that's going on right now in Minnesota. That is what's going on. Minnesota right now has a massive spotlight on itself because of the fraud case, and now this happened just the other day. So you can kind of get the feel of exactly what's really going on in Minnesota. And also the Floyd shooting. I mean, not the Floyd shooting, the Floyd incident that happened in 2020. So Minneapolis is being recognized for the wrong reasons right now.
Its goal is to do, and that is to clean up illegal immigration, violent, worst of the worst, out of the country first. ICE centers, they're trying to protect those detention centers, and our ICE agents have been under threat. A whole lot going on. It is a concoction for anything to happen. So we've been watching this story without a lot of detail, but now take a look at the middle of your screen. This is what we heard early on, and it didn't really make sense, Emily.
Yeah.
So this was a shooting, but it was a ramming. Now we can see the remnants potentially of that with a white car and a vehicle behind it. We don't know all of the details or how that ended up, but we know that that's been a focal point as all of these vehicles now are lining the street. Residential area. Imagine what that feels like. You're looking outside, you've got people, law enforcement, you've got federal agents, everybody in your yards on that street. And now finally some details that a woman reportedly has been shot. We don't know conditions of people. We don't know any of that.
As you can see right here, this is where the incident took place at, and all these people that were gathered around were already there protesting the ICE raids that were going on in this neighborhood. So you can see the large groups of people right there, all protesters for the most part. There might be some locals that stay around there that weren't protesting, that just walked out because they heard shots fired. But for the most part, all these people right here are all protesters.
on the ground. But in the meanwhile, we have Makeup Jacob Frey of Minneapolis. I'm aware of the shooting involving ICE agent at 34th Street in Portland. The presence of federal immigration enforcement agents is causing chaos in our city. He tweets us in the middle of all of this. We're demanding ICE to leave the city immediately. We stand rock solid with our immigrant and refugee communities. I don't know what he knows, but we're going to need to know a lot more information like the facts and not his opinion.
Now, we had a reporter on ground earlier, Mike Tobin, who talked to us about the allegations thus far. This ICE officer-involved shooting involved the person who was shot, a woman, and allegedly involved a ramming incident, which there on your screen you can sort of see. If it pulls out further, you'll see what looks like three vehicles that were sort of tangled together. And then you see there that group of people that, as Mike Tobin described it, sort of descended on the site of where it occurred. Now, there is tape keeping those people at bay. And he talked about sort of the knee-jerk reaction of these individuals that often do descend on where there is an ICE officer involved situation. We see here now plenty of space in between those protesters or gatherers there and what looks like the scene of that shooting, or at least the ramming. John, your thoughts as we see this unfold before us?
Well, Emily, of course, we need to see more facts.
Yes.
But I can tell you the broader picture here is this is what's going to happen in sanctuary states like Minnesota or California or New York, where local officials, if they're not tolerating or at least encouraging resistance to the execution of federal law. No one doubts here that people here are in violation of federal immigration law, that ICE agents have the right under the Constitution to go and execute warrants, to go and detain people in violation of law. And state officials are not allowed to do what the mayor, according to Harris, just said, kicking federal agents out of a state. That is impossible under the Constitution. As mayor, once again, has showed he's not fit for office.
Inciting violence.
Yes, he's
Yeah, Jacob Frey, if people don't know, is a very far left progressive. This guy is, as Matt Walsh would call it, he is a traitor to this country. Jacob Frey will do anything to please his immigrant community, no matter what. And these people do not give a shit about about the Americans, bro. They do not care. These people are here to get their welfare. They're here to take advantage of the welfare system. They don't care about Americans, bro. All these liberals that are out here fighting for their right to stay here, bro, they want you people to go to work for them so that way you pay for their welfare system. You think they give a damn about being here and being assimilating? If that's the case, they would have did it the right way, would have got the paperwork, would have got the appropriate paperwork to stay in America. But these people don't care, bro. They come here, they commit fraud, and then they expect you to go out there, if you're a liberal or progressive, and die for them to stay in the country because they're getting so much welfare from the government. Make it make sense for a moment. These people, if these people really wanted to be here, they would do it the right way. They would assimilate, they would learn the language, but then they go around and they commit welfare fraud. Like the state of Minneapolis right now in the last couple of weeks has not had a good, really in the last couple of years has not had a good light on it. And it's not because just of governance, it's because of like the massive amounts of immigrants we let in over the 4 years. Tens of millions of these people came in, bro. It's crazy to me. Like, this is what we're letting in right now, and they're committing so much welfare fraud in the state. And instead of dealing with the problem, what it is, these people will go out there and die just to let these people stay here. And these people could give a fuck less if you get shot in the neck, or in this case, in the head. Like this, what happened to this woman? Like, they do not give a damn about you. What are you out there protesting for?
urging resistance to the execution of federal warrants. And so, unfortunately, you're going to see people in Minneapolis and Minnesota rush out to try to stop federal agents from doing their duty. And these state officers, instead of encouraging it, instead of saying federal officers should be kicked out, they should be arresting and prosecuting people there.
John, we have more facts now. Our own Michael Tobin, who's reporting on what is happening on the ground there in Minneapolis, is confirming that today ICE officers in Minneapolis were conducting targeted operations when rioters, he say, began blocking ICE officers, and one of these violent rioters weaponized her vehicle, attempting to run over our law enforcement officers in an attempt to kill them. An act of domestic terrorism. An ICE officer fearing for his life, the lives of his fellow law enforcement, and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. As a response, the alleged perpetrator was hit and is deceased. Thankfully, the ICE officers who were hurt are expected to make full recoveries, and we do pray for them. This is a direct quote coming in now. This is the direct consequence of constant attacks and demonization of our officers by sanctuary politicians who fuel and encourage rampant assaults on our law enforcement, who are facing a 1,300% increase in assaults against them and an 8,000% increase in death threats.
Yes.
This is an evolving situation, and we hope to get more details soon.
Can you tell where that quote came from?
This is from Mike Tobin per his sources on what is happening with the ICE officers on the ground there. By the way, 1 o'clock, top of the hour, 1 o'clock Eastern time, we are expecting to get a news conference on what exactly happened there. But I do believe this is Mike Tobin's reporting directly from ICE. Okay. So I believe that's attributable to ICE.
Yeah, you and I are looking at the statement, and some of it's in quotes and some not. And then just the caveat that we always say that this is an evolving situation. Things will come in. That news conference will be critical. And Emily, just look at the middle of the screen there. I don't know if we could pull out on the bottom right of what everybody else is watching, but we can see it bigger here in the studio. Just a huge number of law enforcement that are now on the scene, walking between their squad cars. Vehicles have pulled up in every single direction at 34th and Portland and South Minneapolis as they work the scene. That is a huge show of force there. You now see a line of officers that are keeping some sort of a perimeter now as well.
Well, and the line of officers is necessary because according to some of the footage that is circulating online, the rioters who were present were throwing snowballs and ice at the ICE officers who were trying to manage this scene. So the protest is still ongoing, or at least was not too long ago, in which they...
Yeah, I gotta pull up my X too as well. There was a lot of there was a lot of violence in the streets right now, especially when they were trying to surround the ICE officers and try to attack them. Bro, it was insane what was going on yesterday. I would have went live again, but it's like I did literally like 4 hours the night before on a chill stream, so I wanted to chill out. Actually, no pun intended. I needed to chill out for so I came back today, and I want to cover this right now and get caught up on everything we missed.
were actively obstructing law enforcement from doing what they needed to do on the ground. And I'll just note that this is also within the context of just a day ago, we learned that ICE officers were being told that they couldn't stay at one of the hotels in Minneapolis because the hotel didn't want to aid immigration enforcement measures. So there's clearly a coordinated effort here to prevent the federal government from simply enforcing federal...
Look, let me make this clear. I'm not celebrating this woman's death. I don't at all praise death at all. Like, I'm very sad that this woman died and the child now is going to basically be an orphan. It doesn't have both the parents in his life. It's like, it's very sad. Of course, it's a very sad thing. Like, I don't praise death, but I'd be lying if I sit there and say, like, this is technically, you're going to get it to admit who's really at fault in this situation. You know, people get up here and say it's the ICE agent's fault or whatever. These people are already being stalked as it is. These people are being watched, stalked, tracked by a bunch of these protesters that want to do them harm. So what can you expect the ICE agent to really do in this given situation? So people sitting up here and giving them a lot of shit for them doing their job that's ordered to them by the federal government. ICE agents have a job to carry out. You people can't get mad at the ICE agents for doing their job. Shit, they have immigration. We have immigration laws for a reason. These people here are illegally. It doesn't matter how you feel. They need to go home. But to go back to my original point, I am sad that a loss of lives happened. I am sad that a child has become an orphan now. It is a sad thing. That's what I will say. Now let's get back into it.
Immigration law. And again, this is happening in just about every sanctuary city and state around the country.
Well, and there's a fine line as these events unfold to what we will learn what occurred between resistance and violence. And when you throw snowballs and people say that that's not a big deal, what if it's a white cue ball, which I've experienced in certain situations reporting on? What if it's an ice ball, which can cut your face? I mean, there's no such thing, I think, as a benign resistance whatsoever to them effectuating their duties. And we know, John, that the highest risk to officer safety is indeed in executing warrants. And here, when the sort of public writ large is encouraged to resist and does resist, then situations can unfold rapidly and without any type of stymieing that rapid escalation to here, which is a violence. And I know thus far, I can't see any type of struggle in the people who have appeared thus far on our screens. It doesn't seem to be that those that have arrived are engaging in a jostling yet. I don't see that. I'm not sure if you guys do. So thus far, it seems to be, quote, peaceful in those that have descended on this particular scene right now, John.
Look, this is a result of a woke ideology possessed by the highest leadership of a state, Minnesota, which on the one hand thinks it's fine to loot the federal treasury by abusing federal programs like the welfare programs that the Congress is hearing about, and at the same time to demonize federal agents who are just trying to carry out federal law. And as you said, Emily, the toughest thing is for those agents to have to go and execute warrants. They don't know what's behind a door. They don't know who's going to try to jump on them from what direction. And for them to have to use self-defense, force in their self-defense is unfortunate, but it also gives you an indication of how heavy the resistance is, the kind of danger that is arising in places like Minneapolis. Because again, I think state officials, local officials like the mayor are encouraging or at least tolerating violence. But when they say things like kick all federal agents out of the state or out of the city, I think they're encouraging private citizens, unfortunately, to do something unhinged, like what we see this driver of this white car who had to be shot by ICE officers. And
thereby incentivizing it, because is he saying in these refugee immigrant communities, that'll take the pressure off of all of you. You got to get these guys out. I mean, that's inherent in what he's saying. That's not reading between the lines. Read his words. Based on DHS sources, this is another vehicle ramming incident in a long list. At least 100 vehicle attacks against federal law enforcement have happened since January 20th of 2025. So
that's insane to me. That's how many attacks is happening against ICE agents for doing their job and enforcing immigration law, where basically interior immigration, because interior immigration in practice, this is exactly how it's put into practice. Like, people don't understand real interior immigration until they actually see it in person. And now once they see it, these people are automatically like something's flipped inside of their head, because These people are automatically flipping inside of their head because now they automatically believe that interior immigration is something like how we used to do immigration before. So now that you're seeing interior immigration in practice, people are losing their minds because like they think this is cruelty. In some cases, you can make that argument that it's cruelty, but in other cases, this is exactly how immigration is really enforced. Okay, immigration is enforced in this way. Immigration is enforced in actuality in how it's supposed to be. So people can sit up here and say immigration, oh, well, immigration, this is cruelty, what we're doing to these people, whatever. Fair enough. But at the same time, they came here, they've been here for how long, and they didn't get the right paperwork to remain here? Whose fault is that? That's not the federal government's fault.
We've already lived through nearly a year of this. You were talking about the real threat that something like this is on those federal officers and agents. Absolutely, that's true. I didn't say 10, I said 100.
And they need the support and cooperation of the local police. Now, these ICE agents, federal agents, DEA agents, ICE agents, ATF, they go to execute a warrant. They're not there to try to police the peace-abiding citizens around. They're just there to go and catch a criminal, catch them who's in violation of federal law. If you have mayors, police chiefs, governors saying, we're not going to protect you. In fact, we're going to encourage people to get in the way, and we're not going to prosecute or arrest anyone who tries to attack you, then you're going to see more and more incidents like this. And this is a defiance of federal law. I think it was a mistake for the Supreme Court, unfortunately, to say that President Trump couldn't call up the National Guard, because if state officers keep doing this, the only choice that a president has, and I think he has to do this, is to send in the National Guard to protect federal officers.
Sandra, I want you to comment, sorry, excuse me, on that ICE release that you read earlier, because there's two important notes within that I'd love to hear your feedback on. So this is the ICE release that you read. An ICE officer fearing for his life, the lives of his fellow law enforcement, and the safety of the public, fire those defensive shots. And it says, in accordance with his training, he saved his own life and that of his fellow officer.
Thank God.
And so now these ICE agents have essentially had to, their training has to encompass a daily assault. It's not simply effectuation of duties and effectuation of warrants and arrests and the like. It actually includes assault defense constantly, which is far different from a normal position description, Sandra.
He used his training and saved his own life and that of his fellow officers. You have to think about these officers are going out there every single day knowing that they're risking their lives. We've talked to the family of these ICE agents who also feel like they are threatened and they are scared for their loved ones' lives every single day. I mean, you saw the...
All right, so let's move on right quick. So a video to show. So now we're going to get into it exactly. Who's really at fault for this right quick? Who's really at fault? Okay, so let's bring it all back right now. So now we're going to talk about who's really to blame for this. Of course, we can blame the ICE officer, as most of these liberals or progressive types will sit there and blame, or we could blame the woman for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But from this New York Post article that was posted just the other day, the real person to blame is actually the wife. So video appears to show hysterical, blood-covered wife of Renee Nicole Good, woman killed by ICE, crying out, "It's my fault." A blood-covered woman who identified herself as the wife of Renee Nicole Good hysterically blamed herself for her partner's killing at the hands of ICE agents. Gut-wrenching footage shows the woman was filmed distraught and sobbing just steps from Good's wrecked car in Minneapolis Wednesday morning as a neighbor who heard the commotion asked her what happened. "I made her come down here. It's my fault," the woman said through sobs. "They just shot my wife." So when I read the article like this, and this is the picture of the wife right here from the back, this is her on the ground right here next to the dog. They shot her in the head. "I have a 6-year-old in school," she appeared to say. And this is Renee. This is another picture of Renee Nicole Good right here. Good was shot while behind the wheel in an encounter with ICE agents. An agent who was clipped by her car drew a handgun and fired 3 shots at close range, killing Good, causing her vehicle to speed out of control. So, again, let's look at all the details right here. First, she wasn't even supposed to be there, apparently. Well, none of these people were even supposed to be there. Like, none of the rioters, none of these people that are protesting. Like, these people obviously don't have jobs. And most of these protesters, from my understanding, are being paid to be there by the, forgot his name right now. George Soros Foundation. They're being funded by Soros to basically go out there and protest anything conservative or Republican led, especially when it comes to these ICE, these ICE raids there's a lot of these protesters that just show up out of nowhere, especially they got like nice signs. They're there for hours. Like, and then you're asking a lot of questions. Why are these people there for so long and so long over time? Whereas aren't they supposed to be at work? Aren't they supposed to be at their jobs? Why are they there? And then you go down and then you realize they're being paid. Maybe not all, but a staggering majority of them are probably accepting money in some way. They're accepting donations in some way from someone very powerful who wants to stoke hysteria in the streets. So that's exactly what's going on right now with a lot of these protesters that are going on, like these anti-ICE protests that we've been seeing a lot from all states all over, especially these sanctuary cities. They're being funded by somebody. And who was that person? George Soros. So, but the point of the matter is, when I see stuff like this, it makes me wonder, one, these two women, this could have been avoided in multiple ways. This could have been avoided, whereas this woman shouldn't have not been there in the first place. And I hate to say she wouldn't have been killed. Like, that's a very obvious thing to say. Secondly, we blaming both the ICE. We trying to blame the ICE agent or blame her for her being there or whatever. The wife was the one that encouraged her to go there. So the wife, of course, from what I've read, is a very like active like activist, a left leaning activist. So of course, when it comes to stuff like this immigration raids, she's very much like anti like immigration raids, and then she wants to, basically simp for these third worlders that are in this country. So we could sit here and point the finger at X, Y, and Z and realize it's like we're not pointing the finger at another person that no one's not talking about, which according to the New York Post, which I'm glad they did this article, it wasn't, Nicole didn't come there out of her own goodwill. Actually, that was her wife that brought her there. So if you really want to point a finger at like what led up to her death and why she was there, that's mainly her wife. So that's that. So let's go on. So Minneapolis driver Renee Nicole Good, fatally shot by ICE agent, had been stalking and impeding law enforcement. That's according to Christy Nome. So 37-year-old woman fatally shot by Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE agent Wednesday had been stalking and impeding federal law enforcement all day, according to Homeland Security Secretary Christy Nome. Renee Nicole Good was shot and killed by an ICE agent who she allegedly tried to ram with her car during a chaotic protest in Minneapolis neighborhood, just 1 mile away from where George Floyd was choked to death by a police officer in 2020. Obviously, the New York Post has to, they have to remain in publication. So they're going to say that he was choked to death. So they're going to say they're going to say he was choked to death or whatever, Nome during a Wednesday evening press conference said that Good had been stalking and impeding on the agency's lawful operations in the hours leading up to her death. Of course. Now, I may disagree a little bit with Christy Nome about this. Like I said, like we already read in the previous New York Post article, she was brought there because of her wife. But again, I'm not saying that Christy Nome probably isn't 100% wrong on that. Maybe she does have information that we don't know, that Nicole, along with her wife, were stalked. Well, of course, all these people were stalking ICE agents. Like, you can make the case about everyone there that was there involved in the protest. They were all stalking the ICE agents. So you can make that argument. So I wouldn't say it's probably her specifically doing it. I would say it's more of like all the groups that were involved were stalking the ICE agents. So just to try to take the heat off of her a little bit, again, this is a person that just got killed that was a mother. Regardless, this could have been avoided if she wasn't there. But the point of the matter is, a lot of these protesters that were there, they were there because they were all stalking the ICE agents' whereabouts. They were all following them. So now, well, hold on. Before we get into that one, because this one, I'm going to give you the legal aspects out of this from a legal expert, not from me. Okay, I'm going to give you the legal expert. So I'm going to let a legal expert give you their personal opinion about what is going to happen. But first, we're going to go to the Minnesota Star Tribunal, and we're going to get a basically we're going to get like a article from her mother. Her mother was interviewed by the Minnesota Star Tribunal, and they dropped an article from her on their from her basically giving an account of her daughter, basically just speaking about her daughter, saying that she was an amazing human being, of course, saying she was wonderful, you know. So let's go ahead and read this article. Okay, so this is from the Minnesota Star Tribunal. She was an amazing human being. Mother identifies woman shot, killed by ICE agent. Renee Nicole Good, 37, lived in Minneapolis with her partner just blocks from where she was shot. So as it goes down right here, the woman shot, killed by an ICE agent in Minneapolis on Wednesday, January 7, was identified by her mother as 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good. Good died just a few blocks from where she lived. A woman who answered the door at Good's home declined to comment. Donna Ganger told the Minnesota Star Tribunal that her daughter lived in the Twin Cities with her partner. Ganger said the family was notified of the death late Wednesday morning. That's so stupid that she was killed, Ganger said. After learning some of the circumstances from a reporter, she was probably terrified. You can make that argument. That's so stupid. She was killed, Ganger said. Okay, I read that part. Ganger said her daughter is not part of anything like that at all. Interesting. So referring to protesters challenging ICE agents. So this is the back door off of that previous article that we read, where a lot of the blame could be put on the wife, that the wife brought her into this situation, which led to her being killed. So, and now the mother basically is verifying that even more. So the mother is backdooring off of the New York Post article that her daughter is not even really an activist. She's not even involved in any stuff like this where she's protesting or anything. So that just shows you even more who's really at fault in this. Like, people are pointing fingers at the ICE agents and saying that, hey, you need to show restraint about how you basically use your gun. You have no legal authority to do this, X, Y, and Z. Bro, she wasn't even supposed to be there in the first place. None of these people are supposed to be there. But according to Renee Nicole Good's mother, she's not even really an activist. She's not even part of any movement. Her wife was the one that brought her there and basically got her killed. Like, if you want to look at the blame and who's the blame for this woman being killed, it's not the ICE agents, it's the wife. You could sit up here and look and point fingers and say, this is Trump's fault, X, Y, and Z. This is Republicans' fault. This is JD Vance's fault. This is Kristi Noem's fault. This is ICE agents' fault. No, we gotta also take some accountability too. The wife was the one that involved her in this situation where she's not even an activist. She's not even a part of politics like that, according to the mother. So this is why I'm glad I did this research the other night, because I wanted to bring this to light to show everyone right now who's really at fault. So you're sitting up here, you're blaming the ICE agents. You're saying that this is their fault for them not showing restraint. Look, you can have that, or you can make that argument, of course. But at the same time, their lives are already in danger, already as it is. They're getting hounded by so many people trying to stop them from doing their jobs, trying to assault them, trying to impede on their basically on, and then also trying to dox them. That's one thing I also didn't say earlier. They're getting doxed like crazy. A lot of these ICE agents there's a reason why they wear a mask, because they have to hide their identity, so that way people retards don't follow them back home to their homes and try to attack their families. So if this makes any sense anymore, let me know in the chat. But yeah, people are sitting up here blaming the ICE agents or whatever, but like, according to the mother, Renee's wife was the one that brought her to this protest. So that's ultimately what led to her death. So now, all that aside, I'm not a legal expert. So we are going to get a legal expert's opinion on this right now. So the legal fallout, this is from the the National Review. Then we're going to get the legal fallout from the Minnesota ICE shooting. And this is from Andrew C. McCarthy. If you don't know who Andrew C. McCarthy is, give me just a moment. So Andrew C. McCarthy is a former chief assistant United States attorney in the Southern District of New York. So this guy knows the law. This guy knows the law 100%. So if you're talking about the legality of this, is this lawful? What's going to happen to the ICE agents? Did the woman really run him over? We're going to review the video, of course, too, as well, to give my own perception of what I saw. But we're going to get the legality aspect out of this. We're going to get like a lawyer's perception of what really happened. So go down right here to this point. Let's see. All right. So this is the one right here I want to hone on right here. So I'm going to highlight it for you guys right quick. And then I'm probably going to let me zoom it. Let me bring it up a little closer so you guys can see that. Okay. So I want everyone to look at this part right here. Let me highlight it again. Okay. So, all right. So I want you guys to also read this, and I'll read this out loud for you guys, but I want you to also read it yourselves and to see exactly what it says. Undoubtedly, if it is a reasonable to construe the woman's actions as a deliberate attempt to mow down an ICE agent with a speeding vehicle, the use of force was justified. But even if the woman was mainly trying to get away, which is what it looks like to me, she was engaged in an actionable assault on a federal officer, a felony under section 111 of the federal penal code. That right there is right there for you guys to see for yourself. This is not from me. This is from a former lawyer in the Southern District of New York. You can read this for yourself right here. You can go look it up right there. Go look up right now. You can look this up. So you want I'm not giving you my personal expertise. I'm giving you from a actual person who practiced the law. Again, I'm just a podcaster. I research this stuff. This guy went to school to study this stuff. I don't have the credentials as much as he does. So he's giving you the sauce right now. He's giving you the rundown exactly if this is constituted as assault. And according to him, this is constituted as an assault. So there's no arguing against this part. All right. So you guys can clip this down, whatever. You can go, like I said, you can go to the National Review right now. Of course, I'm using a payroll remove. So, but anyways, it does constitute as assault. According to Andrew McCarthy, that is assault. You can if you want to cry about it in the comment section, that's on you. So this is another one from Fox News right here. No video of ICE involved shooting in Minnesota shows different angle.
We've got several videos showing the moment that an ICE agent fired his weapon in what ICE says was self-defense. For more on that, let's bring in Carrie Urban, Fox News legal editor and former counselor to Attorney General Bill Barr. Carrie, good to have you with us. And I think we want to just get a look at these videos. Let's do that right now. That's number one. You see the agent who was in front of that vehicle. Here's number two. Let's watch this. There's no audio on this, so just watch quiet as we watch this unfold as well. That second one harder to see. It's from across the street. We have a third video that we also are cleared to use now as well. Let's take a look at this one from a higher angle. And you see this is the car after the shooting as it plows into two cars that were parked on the street there. Carrie, your thoughts on these videos and on what you just heard? We've got just 20 seconds left.
What we don't have video of, Martha, and it's very important, is what happened right before that. And context and circumstances matter because that's what's going to matter in the court of law. These situations are always very fact specific, and it boils down to the perspective of the law enforcement officer that used the deadly force.
All right, so let's so let's go back and look at this again. So we're gonna watch it in slow motion this time. So I want everyone to really pay attention right now.
We've got several videos showing the moment that an ICE agent fired his weapon in what ICE says was self-defense. For more on that, let's bring in Carrie Urban.
All right, so I'm going to turn the sound off, and now I'm going to play it in like slow motion. All right, so pay attention right now, everyone. I want you guys to pay attention. So we're going to watch it in slow motion. Okay, the ICE agents are walking up to the car. Okay, look, they're walking up to the car. Now, obviously, there's no audio. So they're telling her to exit the vehicle. Now, of course, ICE agents are not allowed to detain U.S. citizens unless you are impending on their job. They have a legal right to detain you. They can't hold you, of course, or basically they can't. I don't think they cannot arrest you, but they do have a right to basically, if you're impending on their job and preventing them from getting out of a situation, then they are legally by law allowed to remove you out of the way, so that way they can get themselves out of a sticky situation. So, and I'll bring it up for you guys to show you right now. Yes, they are not allowed to arrest U.S. citizens. That's of course. But let's watch the video again, and let me give you guys my perspective of what I see. Even though I already gave you the legal implications that, yes, the ICE agent was in his legal right to do what he did, according to Andrew McCarthy. So the ICE agent is not going to face any lawfare whatsoever against him, regardless of what the Dems are going to say they're going to do. So as you can see, they're walking up to the car. Okay. They're trying to open the door. They're telling them to get out. Now, what you guys don't see, there is a third ICE agent on this other side of the vehicle. That is the one with the gun. That's the one that fired the shots. So she's backing up. Okay. Look, she's backing up. Now she's stopped the car, and now she's changing gears. Okay, and the ICE agent right here, you can see him right now on the other side. He's the one that's in front. He is the one that's in front of the vehicle. And now she's about to drive forward, basically into him. And as you can see, look. Bam. Now, was the ICE agent hit? In some cases, look, as stupid as it sounds, he was actually hit. Even though, according to Andrew McCarthy, what it appears to be the one was trying to get out of the way and trying to leave, she did hit the ICE agents with her rearview mirror. And technically speaking, she was in the middle of driving, and she was going to drive past them no matter what, if they were standing in the way or not. She was trying to get out the way. She was not complying. She was not getting out the car. She was not even listening to commands. She was going to drive no matter what they were saying to her. They were walking up to her to exit the vehicle, and she obviously was not complying with commands, and she kept driving forth regardless of the ICE agents that were surrounding the vehicle, one being in the front, the one that let off the shots. The vehicle did hit him. Regardless of like how much damage did he took, he obviously didn't take no damage at all. He went to the hospital, left the same night. Still, the vehicle is still driving forth and still constitutes as a weapon against ICE agents, according to Andrew McCarthy. So as you can see, the vehicle is driving off now. The fire. So we're gonna look at it again, one more time. So as you can see, it's backing up. And now she's driving forth. The guy's standing right there in front. Okay. Even if she does not plan on trying to hit him, regardless, she's still driving forth without stopping, which means that even if he moved out the way or not, according to this video image right here, she would have still hit him. And then it definitely, if she hit him too as well, even if she didn't get shot, nothing happened to her, whatever. If she was alive, this is a felon. She assaulted a federal officer. That is against Section 111 in the Federal Penal Code. That would have constituted her doing some massive amount of jail time because of that. So even if she didn't get shot and she was still alive, she still would have been prosecuted. So if you guys, if that makes any sense at all, like I said, I looked at this stuff and I checked it out. Yes, that's exactly what happened. All right. So as you can see, she continues to drive forth. That's what makes the officer lets off the shots. She continues to drive forward, then speeds off. Of course, the only reason why the car is speeding off right now is because she's been shot. Okay. So that's exactly what happened right now in this scenario. Regardless of what people may say, that's what happened. So now we're going to go over here. Video shows fatal ICE shooting. I think this is a different angle. This one right here is from Fox 9, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Now, the first time that we're really hearing some more details from law enforcement.
Yeah, we know that the call was made maybe about 10 o'clock this morning, so just about 3 hours or so ago. In that press conference, we did get some more information about this woman who was, we know, at this point shot and killed by ICE agents. We have learned that she is a 37-year-old white woman. She appeared to be in the vehicle alone, is what the police chief said, but the spouse has made it to the hospital. But we probably should take it back just a little bit about just some of the chain of events that have happened now that we have some of that information confirmed.
And interestingly, we really still haven't learned what the initial call was, why ICE was there in the first place, who they may have been looking for, but we know that while ICE agents were there, according to Mayor Fry, there were about a dozen or so plus agents there, and that, you know, we've seen there's some video out there. We're actually going to be showing it to you here shortly, so you can see for yourself. But in the course of you know, of them looking for somebody, people started to gather, crowd started to gather, more law enforcement shows up, and I'm not exactly sure at what point the incident happened with the woman in the vehicle, but we know that there was a woman in the vehicle, and according to again, you'll see the video for yourself, and you can kind of watch. There are two narratives here, one from the Trump administration, which we'll read to you in a second, and then one we just heard from local law enforcement. Okay, and Ryan's telling me that we are actually ready to show the video. So before we layer too much context here, why don't we just let you watch this? But we're going to do this in a very sort of deliberate way. Let people know that this is a video we're showing for the first time. You're not going to see it a lot on our air because we want to make sure that when we're showing it, we're doing it with a purpose. So there's no audio here as well, and you're going to see this sort of play out. So just a warning to those who may not want to see this. You can see the vehicle there.
Okay. Well, this was a different angle. Let me see. Okay, I think this is a different angle. Okay.
Door handle.
Yeah. So again, there's no audio here. We don't know what's being said. We want to just show you what's happening. We didn't have a lot on the front end of this. It's kind of the aftermath right now. This video is thanks for letting angles of this as well.
I thought it was a different angle. My bad. I was looking for a different angle of this because like there's multiple angles that were taken of this incident, but apparently this is just the same angle. But I guess there's more footage shown.
Being looked at. So that's kind of one pass of the video. And again, right. Okay. Thanks for letting us know. Sorry. So there is some audio to this, and if you go online, you can see. So now you can see the vehicle is crashed. And according to law enforcement here in the Twin Cities, that woman was shot, and then the vehicle drove into the snow there, as you can see. So this is kind of the aftermath right now. This video is turning the other way. We want to just show you what's happening. We didn't have a lot on the front end of this, and every time we show video, we kind of like to show prior the incident and then as much after. But this is what we have, so we wanted to show it to you.
And this is also the first time that we are seeing this as well. So we're kind of just watching this together along with you. But as you can see there, you see all these houses and these homes along Portland Avenue. We know that this is a residential area. So again, we don't know much about this woman, just that she's 37 years old. We don't know if she was an observer, because that's the thing too. So a lot of these ICE agents were out there, and they say observers were out there as well. These are people that are just documenting what is going on. And so we know from the police chief's perspective, he just says that he knows that she was a woman that was in her car and she was blocking the road. And that's about all the information that we know.
Okay, right. You let me know when this is played out completely, or how close we are. Oh, there's a couple minutes left, because I just wanted to also read, because we haven't had a chance to do this, the statement from Kristi Noem, the Department of Homeland Security, if I could as well. Do you want me to do that right now, Ryan, or do you want me to wait just a minute? Okay. Okay. So let's just kind of let's just watch this for a moment. Again, this is the aftermath.
As you can see, everyone's crowding around where the vehicle crashed into that other car at. The ICE agents that were involved in the incident, obviously, I think they've got out of there by now. You know, again, the ICE officer that was hit by the vehicle, he went to the hospital, and then he was checked out that same night, of course. Mhm.
Okay, so this is a loop now of what happened. If we could just hang on for just 1 second. Now that people have a little traction here, let's kind of watch this, and we'll let you just watch. Yeah, and you saw the shot fired there by the officer on the left-hand side of your screen. Let's read through the statement that the Trump administration had put out just a short time ago. I believe we have that. So we have that up if we want to take that. Today, ICE officers in Minneapolis were conducting targeted operations when rioters began blocking ICE officers, and one of these violent rioters weaponized her vehicle, attempting to run over our law enforcement officers in an attempt to kill them, an act of domestic terrorism. An ICE officer, fearing for his life, the lives of his fellow law enforcement, and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. He used his training and saved his own life and that of his fellow officers.
All right, so give me just a moment. All right, we're covering so much so far right now. Like I said, I've given you different sides of what's really going on. Again, we went over to, we saw the video, we looked at it for ourselves, we studied the video from the angle that's pretty much went viral. That's the angle that everyone saw first before we saw all the other angles. Then we looked at it closely. I'll analyze it myself, and what I saw was she did hit the ICE officer. She was driving straight ahead regardless, not listening to commands, whatever. And then I also gave you the legality aspects out of this from an expert, Andrew McCarthy, from the National Review, who told you that the ICE agent was in the right to do what he did, and technically he shouldn't face any lawful actions against him, because under Section 111 of the Federal Penal Code, he is protected, because this was an action. This was basically like his life was at risk because the vehicle is used as a weapon. The woman was not complying with their commands to get out the vehicle, and basically speaking, this is what led to her being shot, because the officer was in the act of self-defense. You don't like to hear that. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. All right, so this right here is from Mayor Jacob Fry, Minneapolis mayor to ICE. Get the F out.
Incident. I mean, it's pretty clear that Minnesota officials are very hot about what happened, speaking in terms that some people might consider to be inflammatory toward ICE, but then other people might think are justified. Where do you come down on what we've been seeing?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I listened to the majority of that press conference. Here's what I'll say, that the mayor's comments were probably some of the most unintelligible, unhinged comments I think I've heard in quite some time. Clearly, he's placing the blame 100% based off of probably one video that he has seen on ICE agents, saying that they have inflamed the situation, that they are there to do all sorts of chaos in his city. He lays no blame at all the individuals that are impeding law enforcement. They are a law enforcement officer like any other officer, and if you get in their way and you don't take their commands, well then.
Hold on. Bro, this is so fucking funny. Let me bring my shit up real quick. This is so freaking funny, bro. Why did I turn on my social media and then I saw this? This is the first thing I saw about social media. If you can't see that, look. This is George Floyd, Renee Nicole Good. Bro, hold on, let me bring it a little bit closer. Bro, social media is brutal, bro. Oh my God, bro. They literally, who did this? This is, yo. These people don't care, bro. I'm telling you, these people do not fucking care, man. This is insane. Yo. I'm sorry for laughing. I'm sorry for laughing. It's a loss of life. God forgive me. God, please. Oh God, that was actually pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie to you. Oh man.
Again, he brushes past that, doesn't mention any of that. He also doesn't mention that it's his policies that are requiring hundreds of ICE agents in his community. So what he can say there is that he knowingly released.
The body's not even cold. It's not even like that cold yet, bro. These guys are already making the jokes. These guys are already making the jokes already, bro. That's crazy, bro.
His criminal illegal aliens out of his jail back into the community, and that he purposely directs his law enforcement officers not to help ICE on the front end of any of these investigations. And so when ICE is there, outnumbered, as they often are, it's because the Minneapolis Police Department has been told to stand down, that you cannot help ICE. And so my guess is that come tomorrow or even later this afternoon, that you're going to see a 2 or 3-fold increase in ICE officers in Minneapolis to make sure that what occurred today doesn't happen tomorrow.
Chad, this was an incredibly, it struck me when I heard it live, important part and piece of the news conference that we just heard from the police chief over the protocols that he says they have in place for the Okay, we don't have it yet. We're going to turn this. The protocols they have in place to field the uptick in phone calls that they are getting from the people of Minneapolis about the ICE agents on the street there. He said that they have a supervisor on duty that fields those calls. I only bring that up because I wonder where the police were. John and I just mentioned we've seen the video of the actual shooting that took place. I don't see police on scene there. Paul Morrow was saying in the incredibly contentious scene that we just saw play out, we played about 2 minutes of it, that he couldn't spot a police. So, okay, so here's that moment with the police chief. We've turned it. Here it is.
We've had a very dramatic increase in 911 calls related to this activity. We have a protocol in place that has been evolving as the situation has been changing. And at this time, there is a designated supervisor that is on duty 24/7 that fields those calls. And we do everything that we can to ensure that they are appropriately prioritized, with the priority being placed upon the protection of life and safety of everyone in the community.
You tell me, Chad, but it seems to me an incredibly important piece of this investigation will be, did they receive phone calls?
I'm gonna let this keep playing right quick. I'm gonna take myself off camera because I haven't ate nothing yet and I'm kind of hungry. So I'm gonna get this food. I'm gonna eat some of my food right quick.
Calls to arrive at the scene there. Could police have backed up those ICE agents and helped de-escalate the situation before it ended up where it did? Or did they get phone calls this was happening and ICE agents asking for backup? And did the police chief tell his police officers to stand down?
Yeah, those are all good questions. I think we also heard the police chief say that, his officers responded to shots fired and arrived on the scene. And so what that tells me is that they were not there to begin with. They were not there to help support ICE. And what we've seen is that the National Guard, when they go into these communities, that's what they're there to do. They're not there to arrest anyone. They're there to protect ICE officers as they go out into these neighborhoods to make these arrests. DHS would normally use local police, but they're in Minneapolis, as we see in many sanctuary jurisdictions, the police department gives them no help, no assistance whatsoever. And so it doesn't surprise me to hear the police chief say, well, they responded to shots fired because they had no one there to begin with. They do not coordinate with ICE. They do not recognize really ICE operations there in the city, because that is the policy driven by the unhinged mayor in his comments. And I think residents need to let that sink in. If ICE was able to go into these jail settings and remove these individuals, they wouldn't be out on the streets in the numbers that they are. But it's because of these policies, it's because of the mayor's policies that they are having to comb the streets and look for these criminal illegal aliens. And I think folks need to let that sit in.
Right. Again, we've seen the video, but we don't want to cast any judgment on the video until expert eyes have taken a look at it, and we see other angles as well. Apparently, there's probably dash cam video from the DHS vehicle that would get a different angle of this as well. But it's pretty clear from looking at the video that there was some effort underway to impede federal agents from carrying out their work. Yeah. And at what point does that become a confrontation that can lead to the use of deadly force? I think it's a matter of obviously judgment on the part of the law enforcement officers, but it's going to be seen differently depending on what your perspective is in the entire thing.
Well, I think that's right. It does come down to judgment. And what you really can't see by one video or perhaps two videos is the crowd that was there, right? And so if you have just 10 officers, but a crowd of 60 people, well, then those officers, even though what's happening in front of them may look one way on a video, their perception and their judgment is something bad is going to happen unless I take action. It's very hard to sort of Monday morning quarterback these types of things. And I'm going to let this investigation play out because I've seen parts of the video, but it's really important. That's why ICE and law enforcement in general, whether it's the FBI or local police, that's why when they go into certain situations that they go in force, right? Because they don't want it spinning out of control, or they don't want their officers to come under attack. But unfortunately, ICE in many instances, and certainly it appears today, they are going into some of these communities and they are quickly outnumbered by the number of people around them, right? And why is that? Well, because you've got the mayor and others calling ICE an occupying force and Nazis and all these other things. So they really need to take a look at the type of rhetoric that they're putting out in their communities as well.
All right, Chad, thank you very much for joining us on the breaking coverage. Let's bring in...
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.
All right. Sorry about that. I was warming up my food. Haven't ate nothing yet. All right, so let's look at this. Some dumbass in the comments says, "Damn, bro, look at that hairline. You got a 6 head." Shut your ass. Probably a dumbass nigga per usual. Troll, not falling for it. All right. Tim Waltz. Prepping National Guard. So this one right here gets my blood boil right here. This is where Trump should enforce the Insurrection Act. The Insurrection Act against Tim Walz. Tim Walz is literally saying he will use the force of the National Guard to stop the ICE agents from doing their jobs. Basically, that is by definition an insurrection. He's inciting insurrection. So if he's inciting insurrection, he should be impeached and he should be in prison. So if this was a serious administration like it should be, Tim Walz would be arrested tomorrow. There would be no filibuster. There would be no debate. There would be nothing. No, there would be nothing. Tim Walz would be arrested and he would be put in prison. I'm not lying when I say that. Tim Walz would be in jail right now. I don't know why we're doing the filibuster. I don't know why we're going the back and forth. Tim Walz should be in prison. So everyone sit up here and saying that he's going to use the full brunt of the National Guard to try to stop ICE from doing their jobs is by definition the Insurrection Act. He's doing an insurrection. So this is what I've always said this, and I'll say this again. Tim Walz, why is he not overthrown yet? Why is this guy not in prison? This guy's already failed at his job. He's already pretty much look at his job at fucking Minneapolis. Look at his job at the state. Look at the job that he's done so far. He's allowed so much massive fraud to happen, and I get it. Fraud happens everywhere. This has been known for years that fraud has happened so much in Minneapolis, from all around. But Tim Walz himself should be in prison. I don't know why he hasn't been arrested yet. Him saying he's going to use the National Guard to stop ICE from doing their jobs. Bro, Trump, what are we doing? Why are we not arresting this guy right now? Like, if this was a serious country, Tim Walz would be in prison. Bad enough, like, I remember someone on X wrote this the other day. Someone said on X that Tim Walz himself, this guy right here, I don't know how Kamala Harris sits up here and says that Tim Walz was right for the position of becoming vice president. You see how bad of a job he's doing in Minneapolis? And this guy right now is running around saying he's going to use the National Guard to stop ICE from doing their jobs. And then he puts the blame on the fraud that's going on in Minneapolis on Nick Shirley. He says that Nick Shirley, a far-right YouTuber going around here causing trouble, instead of acknowledging that, bro, you got massive frauds going on in a single community. Like, instead of sitting up here and kissing the ass of the Somali community, you should be telling these people to fuck off and let ICE do their jobs and deport them. So this fucking moron up here sitting up here says he's going to employ the National Guard to stop ICE from doing their jobs. Trump, why is he not in cuffs? So we're going to listen to what Tim Walz has to say right now.
Let's hear what he has to say.
What we're seeing is the consequences of governance designed to generate fear, headlines and conflict. It's governing by reality TV. And today that recklessness cost someone their life. I've reached out to Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, and I'm waiting to hear back. Let me be clear. Donald Trump and his administration may not care much about Minnesota. That's been pretty evident. But we love this state. We won't let them tear us apart. We'll not turn against each other.
Question. I got a question for him. You know, I want to know this right now because I want to know, why did you change the flag of Minnesota to the flag of Somali? Why did you change the flag of the original flag of Minnesota? It looks exactly like the Somali flag. Literally, I'm from the country of Somalia. I'm not even joking. You can do a comparison. It's not that much different. Why are you catering to a bunch of people that literally look like the guy from Captain Phillips? Do you know? Look at me. I'm the Captain Now guy. That's exactly who this guy's catering to. That's the community that he's catering to. You know. And this guy right up here is straight up saying, like, hey, listen, we should use the National Guard to stop ICE from doing their jobs of deporting these people who are here illegally or taking advantage of the welfare system or people who overstay their visas. What the fuck's going on, bro? Like, this old bastard has already failed the state, and he already hasn't been impeached and put in prison yet. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, are we a serious administration yet? Are we? Because this guy is still walking around free.
To Minnesotans, I say this. I feel your anger. I'm angry. They want a show. We can't give it to them. We cannot. If you protest and express your First Amendment rights, please do so peacefully, as you always do. We can't give them what they want. The hearts and minds of the people in this state are on our side. To Americans, I ask you this. Please stand with Minneapolis. To Minnesotans, know that our administration is going to stop at nothing to seek accountability and justice. The State Bureau of Criminal Apprehension are working on the investigation. We have activated the State Emergency Operations Center. State Patrol Minnesota National Guard leadership is connected with the Minneapolis Police Department, the St. Paul Police Department, Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, the DNR, and Minnesota's Homeland Security and Emergency Management. We have activated dozens of members of the State Patrol's mobile response team. And from here on, I have a very simple message. We do not need any further help from the federal government. To Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, you've done enough. There's nothing more important than Minnesotan safety. I've issued a warning order to prepare the Minnesota National Guard. We have soldiers in training and prepared to be deployed if necessary. I remind you, a warning order is a heads up for folks. And these National Guard troops are our National Guard troops. They're teachers in your community. They're business owners. They're construction professionals. They are Minnesotans. Minnesota will not allow our community to be used as a prop in a national political fight. We will not take the bait. We will continue to update you, Minnesota, as we get more information. Now I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Bob Jacobson of the Minnesota Department of Public Safety.
Oh, man.
Thank you, Governor. As the Governor mentioned, my name is Bob Jacobson. It is my honor to serve as the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. First of all, I want to acknowledge the reason that we are...
Really, we can go further back right now and also analyze exactly the job that he did in... I can go back and further back and analyze the job that he did when the Black Lives Matter protest happened back then in 2020. Of how bad of a job Tim Walz did. The fact that we did not imprison Tim Walz then, it kind of goes to show you like how bad Trump's presidential runs have been. Like the first administration, we should have built the wall. We should have stopped. We should have put an end to illegal immigration, which we didn't do. We should have deported a bunch of people that were already here illegally already, instead of adding 10 million more under the Biden administration. And also we didn't arrest none of the, we're starting to arrest a bunch of the Black Lives Matter organization or people that ran the organization. So we're already doing somewhat good right now in the second administration, but it's not enough, bro. There's 10 million that were let in. 10 million that were let in over the 4 years that Biden was in office. And we still have not deported all of them just yet. I'm surprised that we have not deported this. We only deported like not even close to 1 million in 2025. Not even 1 million have been deported. ICE has stopped reporting on their numbers right now. It's insane to me right now. Like ICE literally has stopped reporting their numbers. And then to go back on my criticism of like when it comes to Trump and dealing with this Tim Walz situation, Walz has already proven time and time again of why he should have been impeached and why he should have been in prison. The fact that we're not throwing this guy in prison, it's a bad look on Trump. Like all he does is just sit there and tweets all day. And that's my problem with him right now. Like tweeting is not going to get anything done, bro. Impeaching this guy, charging him with insurrection, and then imprisoning him will do justice. We need to eradicate these people. We can't sit there and negotiate with these fucking people, bro. And I'm not talking about kill. I'm not talking about kill. Let me make that very clear. If people are going to try to clip that and say that I'm calling for violence or whatever, no. What I'm calling for is political solutions to political problems. And what a political solution is, we charge these people with insurrection, we eradicate them. The far left is only going to get worse if we don't deal with the problem. We need to deal with the problem head on and eradicate it so it never becomes a problem again. All these people are going to do is just keep going on the way they're going to go on. How many protests we've had this, like in the last year, that in reality, we should have went out there and start cracking some skulls. Again, not calling for violence on that, but even though technically speaking, you could kind of look at it like the case for like the ICE agents, they were being assaulted a lot of times. So they were being assaulted, they were being harassed, they were being doxxed, and then these people were justifying their actions against ICE by sitting up here and saying that what they're doing is a form of fascism. None of these people even know what the definition of fascism even is. So they do not understand what fascism even means. They don't even know what fascism looks like in practice. So, but just goes to show you that this is the type of America we live in. Until we start actually showing real political power and real political solutions, we're not going to ever get better from this, bro. We're just always going to keep dealing with the same shit right now. Like I'm pretty sure I got like some retarded people in the chat right now. They're losing their mind about what I'm saying right now. But I was just like, hey, someone has to say it. You know, I'm one of the only few on YouTube that can sit here and speak out against this problem. I mean, like what? You got someone like Andrew Wilson, Byron Gaines, myself. Like we need to fix the problem that there already is. Like, look, I love Trump, you know, voted for him in 2016. I voted for him in 2020. I didn't vote for 2024 because I didn't vote for a war with Iran. But the problem is I still want the Republican Party to do good. I want the Republican Party to win. I want to win. I want to make America actually great again. And, you know, it's not a play on words. Like we're sitting here and we're trying to negotiate with the left. The left wants us dead, bro. So they try to take a shot at you twice. And you're still trying to sit up here and try to play patty cake with them. No, we saw political problems with political solutions. Like I've said before, and I'll say it again. We need to eradicate these people. Not a call to violence, but we don't start locking people up, arresting people, demonizing this shit. We could deal with the problem. But until then, we're just going to keep seeing. We're just going to keep seeing what we're going to see.
We're all here. The loss of life is not anything anyone would ever want. We fully expect that the community will want to peacefully demonstrate their anger or frustration. Minnesota residents and visitors have the right to peacefully demonstrate. We recognize that demonstrations are often driven by strong emotions, beliefs, and certainly a desire to be heard. Our role is to help ensure everyone can express themselves without anyone getting hurt. The Minnesota Department of Public Safety's role through the Minnesota State Patrol is to ensure safety, protect constitutional rights, keep roads accessible, and above all, to prevent harm. Our top priority is public safety. Our focus is keeping demonstrators, community members, drivers, and law enforcement safe, especially during moments of heightened tension or uncertainty. Demonstrations must remain safe and lawful, particularly around roadways. We will join with our partners to support safety while respecting the right to protest. With that in mind, I'd like to share a few safe and lawful ways to demonstrate. Minnesotans can safely and legally express their views in many ways, including getting together peacefully with others in public spaces, marching or walking, not on roadways, making your voice heard through chants, speeches, and displaying signs, being present in public areas where pedestrians are allowed, gathering in designated or permitted areas. And these actions will allow people to express themselves while protecting the safety of everyone involved. Unsafe or illegal actions could result in fines or arrests. Certain behaviors create serious hazards that threaten public safety, disrupt emergency services, or put people at risk. These actions could result in fines or arrest. Demonstrating on or entering a freeway on foot, walking on highways, throwing objects, starting or setting fires, damaging property or graffiti, using illegal fireworks, displaying or using illegal weapons, reckless or dangerous driving, especially near pedestrians, and certainly assaultive, aggressive, or riotous behavior toward anyone. We all want definitive answers to what happened today. Our Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is working in conjunction with the FBI to investigate this morning's shooting. As you know, we don't comment on active investigations, but also keep in mind that this investigation is also in its infancy. So any speculation about what had happened would be just that. And we will not engage in speculation. With that, I will turn it back over to the governor. Thank you.
We'd be glad to take any questions. Yeah, and I can let General Schaefer talk about this. It so happens it's a training weekend. We've got about 7,500 troops in training at our sites, training sites across the state. What it is, and in the National Guard, you give a warning order, which is a heads up of something could be coming. That just allows people to think about what they would need, what it would mean to mobilize, what it would mean to put them in. And I could let the general talk a little bit about this. Obviously, since the summer of 2020, we had a lot of work done on teams being ready to make sure that civil unrest. And what that means, and I think Commissioner Jacobson was very clear, and I want Minnesotans to hear this from me. The desire to get out and protest and to speak up to this administration of how wrong this is, that is a patriotic duty at this point in time, but it needs to be done safely. And I think the commissioner simply just laid out some of those parameters. We can do that. This is the peaceful resistance that we need. Simon, you want to say a few things about what that means to have them on the ready?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Governor. So for the military, Minnesota National Guard is comprised of 13,000 soldiers and airmen. We live all across and work throughout Minnesota. A warning order is just an initial step to increase your preparations. The Minnesota Guard is always prepared to respond and support state agencies and the citizens of Minnesota. So what that means for us today is just some additional checks on equipment that is ready at all times, and maybe some additional phone calls to service members who might be activated, but no activations. We are embedded with our state agencies here at the Operations Center to just continue parallel planning in the event that we are needed to support.
And I would make note, Mary, and to Minnesotans on this about the National Guard, they're there to protect you and protect your constitutional rights. These are our neighbors. They don't wear masks. They don't bust in from somewhere else. They're not here to cause hassles to you or always.
Hey, Tampon Tim, how about you mention the fact that they're being doxxed, bro? That's why ICE agents have to wear a mask. You're sitting up here saying all this crap right now, but you're not mentioning the fact that why are they wearing masks? I don't know. Maybe because the pedestrians are trying to harm them. Maybe because a lot of you sanctuary city law government officials are telling your law enforcement not to assist ICE when it comes to their deportations. I don't know. Maybe you ever think about that? No, you don't. You sit up here, you're getting mad at ICE. You're sitting up here getting mad at ICE for doing their jobs, but yet when their lives are in danger, you know who's going to blame? They're going to blame you for you're the one leading to them being killed. You're leading to them being doxxed. You're leading to them being hurt. Like guys like you are the reason why they have to wear a mask. I don't know if you've seen it like last year. There was a shooting in I forgot. I think it was Texas. It was in Texas where there was this kid that got on the roof next to an ICE facility and was trying to snipe out the ICE agents. That's the reason why they have to wear a mask. Their lives are in danger every day they go out there to go and do their jobs of interior deportations. What the hell are you talking about? They don't, oh, well, National Guards, they won't sit up here and they wear a mask or whatever. Bro, they're being doxxed. They're being harassed. They have to wear a mask. Sitting up here and trying to tell them to put their faces out there. A lot of these progressive, these liberals or whatever, they want them to do that because they want them to be harmed. They're sitting up here saying, oh, where if you're a real federal officer, you wouldn't hide your face. You would show your badge or whatever. Bro, they're being harassed by people constantly for doing their jobs. They have to wear one. Man, Temp on Tim and all these other fucking progressives, bro, are the worst.
Saw today the tragedy, having them at the ready to make sure, because when we see these types of things happen, and we saw it after the murder of George Floyd, there's folks that want to cause chaos. There's the disruptors in it. And while the vast majority of those protests were peaceful expression of their First Amendment rights, there were those that destroyed property and put people at risk. The National Guard is there to make sure that peaceful protests are able to be done, and that those that want to do the destruction are stopped from doing that. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and I think apparently by a federal agent, not by Minnesotans who were there to express their First Amendment rights. I think we've seen this to have folks ready. The gatherings that were down there today, I think this shocked everyone. People showed up as they should. There's people putting flowers down on a memorial. There's people expressing their anger. It's just as these situations develop, we decide when we need to move these people out. And I think the local reporters know well on this, both unfortunately and for us, the upside of this is that we're very good and we've had practice at this. And I just want to, again, implore Minnesotans, I am not telling you not to express your anger or your frustrations or the outrage that we have. Look, this was This was totally predictable, as I said it yesterday, and it was totally avoidable. And I just want to remind you, too, that local law enforcement, we get no coordination. They don't tell us they're coming. They don't say why they're sending the largest deployment in American history to Minneapolis. They're not making us any safer. We don't have any of that coordination. They should be talking to us when we do these things. Let us know. We're going to be down here. This is going to happen. We don't have that. So when you see local law enforcement or state patrol, or if it would take the National Guard, we're there responding to the chaos they've created, too. But our role is to make sure that we're protecting Minnesotans so that something like this doesn't happen. I have not. The question was, have I spoken to the individual's family? No, we do not have a definitive ID on this individual. And I look, I'm going to note to all of you, I think it's really important, and the professionals do this, and they train me to do this. This is an open investigation. You need to be very careful about it. I know that many of you, myself included, have seen a very difficult video to watch, one where there's a family member watch their family member be shot and killed in front of them. It's beyond me that apparently from the federal government, from the Homeland Security Director herself, has already determined who this person was, what their motive was, and they hadn't even been taken out of the vehicle. We're not living in a normal world. And so, no, I have not. And I want to be very careful because I know how painful this is. I know how painful it is right now. I'm saying person and all that. This is a human being. This very well is, an individual's child, a parent, and we don't know that yet. So, no, I have not. But once we do, we will. So, yes. Colonel, would you like to do that? Colonel?
The governor was mentioning mobilizing more of the state patrol. How many state patrol people are state patrol people on the ground?
So the question was, how many state patrol troopers have been deployed to the city of Minneapolis? Right now, we don't talk typical numbers because that is considered security information. We do have a specialized team that does deal with crowd control, and so they have been deployed. But again, they are from all over the state of Minnesota, so they will come in tiers to the state.
And they already been on before today?
No, it was in response to this event.
One more. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. What was it? Well, I said this yesterday. We've never been at war with our federal government. I think in this case that the National Guard is their main mission. They have a dual mission. There's the federal mission when they're under Title 10 orders, and then they're under Title 32 orders. In this warning order, there's nothing officially been done yet. If I am to activate them as the Commander-in-Chief of the Minnesota National Guard, I will issue the executive order to the Minnesota National Guard, and then they will be put in state duty status. And as you've seen over the last few years, that could be flood prevention, that could be after a wind-blowing storm up in the north, up in Bemidji, or it could be COVID or George Floyd response. In this case, again, it doesn't necessarily change the mission. They're there to protect Minnesotans. They're there to serve Minnesotans. I think the thing that is so challenging in the moment we're in is we don't see a desire to work with us on public safety. We hear a demonization of our state. We see people coming in who don't know our community, and we see this massive display for the TVs that we're trying to understand how is this coordinated. And some of you watch the videos on there. Total chaos. And look, I have very limited work in this is the training in the National Guard, but I've had a lot of training now to watch how our professionals operate. After this person was shot, federal agents milling around, touching the vehicle at a crime scene and things. I don't know what to tell you, and I don't quite know how to respond to the question other than my primary responsibility as governor is the protection of the people of Minnesota. And you can be assured whether it's the state patrol or whether...
If that's the case right now, when he says his primary goal is the protection of the people of Minnesota, let's go back to 2020 when the BLM riots were going on after George Floyd died. A lot of people's property damage was very high. People's small businesses were destroyed. A lot of people got hurt. People got killed. So he says his first and foremost is the protection of the people. But we go back to 2020, Tim Walz doesn't have a good history of doing that at all, not under his watch. And then we can also go to recently. I mean, this incident that happened in Minnesota the other day, it's not a good look for him at all, quite frankly. People sit up here saying this is on the ICE agents or whatever. If he had just complied with the interior deportations that were already going to happen in Minnesota, this incident probably would have never happened. The woman being there was brought there by her wife. This would have never happened. All this could have been avoided in many ways. But Tim Walz is sitting up here saying that he cares about the people or whatever. I mean, his track record doesn't speak very highly good right now, especially the fact that he's allowing so much fraud going on in his state. So I don't know what else you want me to say, Tampon Tim. I mean, like, you're not doing a very good job, bro, as a governor. And the fact that, and evident of that, why he's not doing a good job, he just stepped down 2 days ago. He said he's not running for re-election. That lets you know exactly how good of a job he's doing right now. Bro literally has to step down right now because he knows for sure that if he even tries to rerun again for governor, he's going to be hounded with so many questions about the fraud that's going on in Minnesota and how he's not doing a good job in quelling the problem. So, hey, facts speaks for themselves. Tim right now has got so much. Minnesota has the most eyes on itself right now since the Floyd riots. So, and it's not a good light. It's not a good spotlight right now. It's definitely not. When the riots happened, they were definitely not a good spotlight.
It's the National Guard. Their deployment is there to protect Minnesotans from whatever it is. If it's an act of nature, if it's a global pandemic, or in this case, if it is a rogue federal agent. I don't know at this time, and I want to be very careful. It's unprecedented that we have the federal government's already determined exactly what's happened here and the motives of an individual that we don't even know the name. They don't know the name, and that's very difficult. So, go one more, Dana. Look, and I understand the uniqueness of this moment in this week, following this week, seeing what's happening in the backdrop of a show hearing in D.C. My job is to govern, and my job is to see what the facts are. This happened a couple of hours ago, and we're already pitting American against American. All of you saw a video in your eyes. We have a chaotic situation caused by the largest deployment in American history of federal agents into a community with no communication to locals. We had a chaotic situation where an individual is in their car, shot and killed. And so, look, I want to be very cautious here because Donald Trump will make this about me. He will make this about politics. This is about public safety, and this is about normalcy. To Americans who are watching this, if you're in Portland or you're in LA or you're in Chicago or you're wherever they're coming next, stand with us. Stand with us against this.
Of course. Of course. He's egging them on to keep going, protests and all that. Bro, this is what's This is what's leading to the problem in the first place, bro. Oh my gosh, bro. This is not helping the situation at all. You're telling them to keep going and keep protesting. You're encouraging them to keep doing this, which led to this woman being killed, bro. Like these officials are trying to get people's lives taken from them instead of telling them to stay home and let them do the deportations. That's their jobs. That's their order by the federal government. We have people that are here that are illegally here. They have to go home. There's no other way. They have to go home. What are you talking about, Tampon Tim?
So preventable, so unnecessary, and I don't know. I hope maybe we're at the McCarthy moment. Do you have no decency? Do you have no decency? We have someone dead in their car for no reason whatsoever. And I don't want to be right about this, but I said if they do this, they're going to create a chaotic situation where someone innocent is going to get killed. And they did it. And now we hear more political rhetoric. Enough. Enough is enough. And so to Minnesotans, don't take the bait. Do not take the bait. Do not allow them to deploy federal troops into here. Do not allow them to invoke the Insurrection Act. Do not allow them to declare martial law. Do not allow them to lie about the security and the decency of this state. And let's let this investigation play itself out. Let's make sure we protect our neighbors. I encourage you to use your First Amendment rights and all of your constitutional rights, but do so in a peaceful manner. We'll gather back with you as soon as we gather more information that needs to be put out. But again, stay safe, Minnesotans, and we'll be back with you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox
Yeah, that's Tampon Tim's
News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
That's Tampon Tim right there for you. All right, so watch Trump shares new video in response to ICE-involved shooting. This is another one.
A woman in Minneapolis is dead after an ICE-involved shooting. These are live pictures from Minneapolis. There are videos, as we speak, going around social media showing what happened earlier today.
And don't worry, if you're like a liberal, whatever, you're in the comment section, I will let me see, where is it? Yeah, I have the other side too. I have CNN on here too as well. Look, I'll be very objective right now. I'll have both sides or whatever, regardless of where I am on the political spectrum. And then we're also going to have like protests. We're going to have like live. This was from yesterday, of course. This is protests on the way in Minnesota after a fatal ICE-involved shooting. I don't know if they're still there right now. And then we're also going to have like Fox 2 Detroit. And then we're also going to get Tom Homan interview to get his reaction on the shooting that happened in Minneapolis. So gonna have all of this pretty much. Where's it at? Here you go.
Between protesters and ICE. We're working on bringing you those videos. You can see one of them on your screen as we speak. Basically, here's what it describes. It shows agents in a truck pulling up to a car that appears to be blocking the road. The two agents get out. They walk up to the driver's side of the car. From there, things escalate quickly. One agent touches the car, and the driver starts driving backwards with the agent's hand still on the car. The driver then hits the gas while another agent appears to be standing in front of the vehicle. That agent, more in front of the car, appears to open fire as the car barrels towards him. DHS telling Fox News the officer who fired the shots had been dragged by a car last June in Minneapolis. We've since learned the driver of the car who was shot was a 37-year-old woman. She was killed. President Trump has weighed in just the last 30 minutes. He wrote, "I have just viewed the clip of the event which took place in Minneapolis. It is a horrible thing to watch. The woman screaming was obviously a professional agitator, and the woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer who seems to have shot her in self-defense. It is hard to believe he is alive, but is now recovering in the hospital. The situation is being studied in its entirety. But the reason these incidents are happening is because the radical left is threatening, assaulting, and targeting our law enforcement officers and ICE agents on a daily basis. They are just trying to do the job of making America safe. We need to stand by and protect our law enforcement officers from this radical left movement of violence and hate." Now, not long after the incidents, just a few hours ago, we saw chaos already beginning between law enforcement and rioters on the streets of Minneapolis. Watch.
Oh shit. Let me go back right quick. Actually, I didn't miss that part.
Watch.
Oh crap. Oh shit. Bro, he shot him in the yo. He was reaching for his gun too, so that was actually warranted. Bro's trying to block the pepper spray with the umbrella. That's crazy. It's see in that instance right there, he's standing in the way of the vehicle right now, trying to stop them from driving away. Like, bro, let me stop right now. Retards like this or us like, bro. Like, imagine sipping for people that literally don't care about you when they come to this country. They just want your work. They just want you to go to work so you can pay for their welfare. That's what they want. They don't give a shit that you're out there fighting for them to stay in this country. They want your worth. They want the benefits of this country. They want to take advantage of this country. That's just crazy. It's crazy to me see some of these guys up at these fucking cook. I call them literally it's a cook, bro. Like, bro, imagine sipping for third worlds, bro, that don't care about you. Bro, they spraying the shit.
Get out of the way. Get out. Press, get out of the way. Get out of the way. Took.
Tense in a city that not even 6 years ago was destroyed by political tension, by lawlessness, by agitators. And on that note, not long after that moment you saw on your screen, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey held a news conference where he basically begged for this to be 2026 George Floyd.
I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some...
The biggest cook on the planet, Jacob Frey, bro. Bro, I swear to God, bro. Bro, I'm telling you, if this was a serious country, this fucking cuck right here would be in prison right now. Bro, allowing so much fraud going on in the state of Minneapolis, bro, you need to be in prison right now. You fucking bitch, bro. You have failed the state. You have failed the state, bro. You and Tampon Tim deserve a cell right there next to Madorio.
Kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
Trust me, I have a lot to say about Mayor Jacob Frey and how he's handling what's happening in Minneapolis. We're going to get to that in just a moment. But just in the last few minutes, Democrat Minnesota Governor Tim Walz also found a podium.
I have a very simple message. We do not need any further help from the federal government. To Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, you've done enough. There's nothing more important than Minnesotan safety. I've issued a warning order to prepare the Minnesota National Guard. We have soldiers in training and prepared to be deployed if necessary. I remind you, a warning order is a heads up for folks. And these National Guard troops are our National Guard troops.
Weird line. Our National Guard troops in Minnesota, seemingly pitting them against the United States of America. First, though, I want to go to Fox News correspondent Mike Tobin, who's on the scene in Minneapolis. He's been there all afternoon, where there are a lot of protesters and law enforcement officials on the scene. What's happening right now, Mike?
Well, this is a crowd that is left over at the scene where the woman was shot there. We saw the crowd dissipate largely when law enforcement stood down. They took the friction point away, if you will, and a large crowd of protesters followed them marching north on the street here. There were some objects thrown at that time, but the situation is pretty calm right now. I'd say there are about 150 people hanging around the scene where that woman was shot. Now, incidentally, Secretary Kristi Noem has weighed in on this. She called the use of the vehicle domestic terrorism.
Was an act of domestic terrorism. An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him. And my understanding is that she was hit and is deceased. We're continuing to gather more information, but this goes to show the assaults that our ICE officers and our law enforcement are under every single day.
Now, the narrative that the officer fired in self-defense or the defense of his fellow officers, Mayor Jacob Frey called that BS. He didn't use the acronym. And Governor Walz weighed in on it. He said, don't believe the propaganda. Now, we do know from a DHS source who was speaking to John Roberts that the agent who fired the shot was involved in a vehicular dragging incident last June, was dragged by a vehicle, that particular officer. Also, since January of 2025, there have been 100 vehicular attacks while the agents are responding to different scenes and conducting their operations. Having done ride-alongs with the agents, I can tell you that the vehicular aggression is pretty frequent, and the feeling of the agents is it was just a matter of time before someone got hurt. Will?
Well, thank you so much, Mike Tobin. Now, in addition to revisiting the rhetoric of Jacob Frey, Tim Walz, and other Democratic politicians when it comes to ICE, we will be talking about the legality of this incident, the shooting in Minneapolis. But we have new video that we want to show you from the moment of the attack. This is a more wide view. We're working on a shadow for this video to
Okay, so this is another angle.
show you exactly where to train your eyes so you can see more clearly. But it appears from this angle that you can see the agent was in front of the vehicle.
Yes.
A lot of angles out there, many of them circulating social media. We're trying to get clearance to bring many of those to air. But there are angles that show exactly the dynamics, the split-second calculations of an ICE agent on scene when a car accelerates into them.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
Okay, as you guys can see, there was a different angle right there. That was another angle. Let's see. So this is how the FBI will evaluate the actions of the ICE agent in Minnesota.
Paul Morrow. Nicole, start with you. What I see is very clear. I see somebody not listening to law enforcement, backing up, accelerating right into an ICE agent. What do you see?
What I see is a vehicle being used as a deadly force weapon. And that, in my opinion, based on my training, deadly force is justified. Let me make something very clear. No law enforcement officer, and particularly federal agent, wants to have to deploy and utilize their firearm in the line of duty. When you are doing that, you know that you have no other choice and that you are literally defending your life or the life of others. And it's very important for the viewers to understand that, for instance, the DOJ deadly force policy says that you believe that your life or life of another person, the subject is posing an imminent danger of death or serious physical injury to yourself, to another officer, or to others. And again, the deadly force policy is very particular. We are trained on it like over and over and over, Sean. That's one of the things that's emblazoned in my mind. That's the one thing. Every single operation, you review the deadly force policy prior to executing any sort of operation. We are trained on deadly force legal training. We are trained on firearms training, defensive tactics training, less than lethal force training. We literally would go before a legal panel and we would go.
And the funny thing about it, there's a lot of like non-experts that have never worked with ICE before giving their opinions about this, saying that, hey, that's not how they're supposed to do it. They ain't supposed to shoot an innocent person or whatever. They don't understand the legality aspects. Like I said, I went over it earlier with McCarthy earlier. Let me go ahead and give you a reminder. This is from Andrew McCarthy in the National Review. And this part right here, I want to highlight this part right here again, just guys to show you, if you are just joining the stream and you didn't hear me go over the legality aspects of this earlier from a legal expert, not from me personally. I gave you a legal expert's analyst of this incident. So she was engaged in actionable assault on a federal officer, a felony under section 111 of the federal penal code. That's because the vehicle, he was in front of the vehicle. She refused to get out of the car. She refused to comply. She was driving forward regardless if he was in the way or not, which means that is technically a use of force. And also assault with a weapon, which is a felony against a federal officer. So again, they're trained to know the law. They're trained how to use the weapons. They're trained to do their jobs pretty much. And everyone else, these liberals, these progressives, they don't understand how ICE does this stuff, bro. They go over it all the time and tell you they understand the job better than you. You don't understand the job. Most of these people have never seen interior deportations. I've never either. This is the first time I've seen interior deportations done in this way. But according to former ICE agents who were on the jobs before, this is exactly how interior immigration is done. This is exactly how it's supposed to be done. If you really want to get these illegal immigrants deported, they have to go into places of business. They have to go to houses. They have to deport these people, no matter where they're at. They can be leaving immigration court and they're still here illegally. They have to be picked up. No excuses. No excuses.
Scenarios over and over with fake firearms with lasers on them, and we had to justify what we did, and they would play scenarios out on a film in front of us, and we had to stand in front of that video and act it out as if it was real. So let me make one thing very clear. These agents are very highly trained. It is not your first option to have to use deadly force, but when there is a vehicle coming at you and it is being used as a weapon, deadly force is justified, and they're going to be looking at the totality of the circumstance. It is very easy for a politician to get out there and say, that was wrong, that was not justified. That is inappropriate. It is wrong for them to do that. Let the FBI conduct their investigation, and they will look at the reasonableness of the agent at the time that it occurred. Everything comes down to the perspective of the agent. Did they believe that their life or someone else's life was in danger of death or serious physical injury? And that is what it will be based on. And again, let me make something else very clear. It's all about action versus reaction. And it's very easy for people to criticize. But until you have had a deadly force weapon come barreling at you like a vehicle, or you have had someone fire a gun at you, you are not in the position to make a judgment call on this, and you need to leave it up to the FBI to conduct the full investigation.
Chad Wolf, maybe you can expand on what Nicole's saying in terms of the training. And we've had these other incidents, as Christy No mentioned earlier today, of vehicles used as weapons and ramming into ICE agents.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, threats to ICE agents are up 100%, right? You have rocks and bricks being thrown at them. You have a sniper in Texas who was taking shots at them. So if you're an ICE agent and you go into a sanctuary city, you understand the threats that are against you. You know that local politicians don't want you there. You know that the local police department is not going to support you. And so you have all of this, and then you have an incident like you have today, and you're quickly outnumbered by individuals there in the community. And so you really do have to look at the totality of the circumstances that are surrounding these incidents. And in this case, you clearly have someone who is not adhering to the officer's commands, right, is obstructing, is doing a variety of different things. So it's a very difficult situation that these ICE officers have to go into, particularly when you have a mayor like Mayor Fry and Governor Walz who are just fanning the flames with their rhetoric and really their nonsensical description and words today. None of what they said is true. It doesn't make any sense. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people see that and they believe it. And then they go out and they do what they did today.
Yeah, let's get your take, Paul Morrow.
Well, obviously, the totality of the circumstances applies here. We don't know some of what went on during the entire day. According to the reporting, this person who was the victim of the shooting was apparently harassing and impeding ICE all day. Well, that's a federal crime, and look at it in context. If she has, in fact, been doing that, now she's blocking their forward progress when they're actually trying to leave. You know, it's ironic. They want everybody out. They want ICE and all the feds out of their neighborhoods. But here they are trying to leave, and she's blocking them. And in that context, when they tell her, get out of the car, she then backs up and accelerates forward. And social media can parse
towards an agent
as finely as they want. Yeah, towards an agent. And the thing is, you know, you can freeze frame it, you can go forward a frame. Oh, here she seems to turn to the right. The bottom line is that agent had about a quarter of a second to make a decision. And when he made that decision, that car was accelerating towards him. And as far as the leaders in that neighborhood go, in that city, in that state, how many times in the past have any of them done anything to try to dial the rhetoric down? Have any of them ever said just this simple statement, stop attacking ICE? Had they done that, they'd have a lot more credibility now.
Yeah.
Paul Morrow, thank you. Nicole Parker, thank you. Chad Wolf, thank you. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
All right, so now we're going to get the other side's perspective on this. We're going to get CNN side. So if you're a big liberal and you still trust mainstream media, of course I pulled out Fox, but I watch all forms of media. I watch right, I watch left, I watch centrist, whatever. I like to get all perspectives on the matter, just in case I'm open to new ideas too as well. You know, of course, the libtards are going to be wrong in this situation because they're not going to understand the legality aspects, and they're just going to draw on the feelings of the general masses and to try to weaponize that against conservatives, right wingers. That's all they're going to pretty much do. That's what CNN is going to do. They're going to get the legality aspect wrong of this, and they're just going to use misinformation and try to weaponize it against the Trump administration.
Following breaking news in Minneapolis, where city officials confirm a shooting occurred reportedly involving a federal ICE agent. and a civilian this morning. You see the live pictures right there. Our Whitney Wild is there on the ground. Whitney, tell us what's happening right now.
Dana, we're in the heart of Minneapolis. We're here on East 35th and Portland Avenue. And let me show you first. I'll show you who's on scene. That is Mayor Jacob Fry. He's the mayor of Minneapolis. To the side here, on the left side of your screen, that is Police Chief Brian O'Hara. There is an enormous law enforcement presence here from multiple different jurisdictions. Our photographer is going to show you what the crowd looks like here, Dana. Mayor Fry is now leaving. I think you're probably starting to hear people yelling to him, but he is now leaving. He had spoken with some people on the edge of the crowd when he first arrived. According to a man who had video of it, he did not come back to the crowd. Now a crowd is following him down the street. But what you're looking at right now is the law enforcement response here. So you see Minneapolis Police, you see the Hudson County Sheriff's Department. We've also seen the U.S. Marshals here. We've seen Customs and Border Patrol. But let me bring you up to speed with what we know. As you said, we know that there was a shooting involving federal law enforcement near East 34th Street and Portland Avenue. That was according to the city of Minneapolis. We do not yet know for sure what the extent of any injuries are or what prompted this. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has weighed in, saying my public safety team is working to gather information on an ICE-related shooting this morning. Again, Mayor Jacob Fry is here. This is all in the context of this ramped-up immigration enforcement that DHS has been touting. They say this is the largest immigration crackdown to date. 2,000 agents spread throughout the Twin Cities. This has been going on for a couple of days now. We know that DHS Secretary Kristi Noem was here in the Minneapolis area yesterday. And what we see now is this real peak moment here where, based on our understanding, there was a shooting involving federal law enforcement here, and as Governor Tim Walz said, involving an ICE agent. We are learning to, trying to learn as much as we can. But let me just get you, another picture of the crowd here, because this is a city where these George Floyd riots are not far in the rearview mirror. And what I keep hearing from people in this area is they say, if you thought that was bad, this city is about to explode. So the line
Bro.
police are towing right now is trying to keep this calm and not inflate the crowd, because they do not want another major eruption. They cannot have a repeat of the George Floyd riots. And so right now,
Maybe if Tim Walz was actually real based, you would let the National Guard come in and quell the riots, bro. You would let them come in and get rid of the rioters. You get them, arrest people and start putting them in jail. Or better yet, have the Trump administration arrest him. I mean, he's already done a terrible job already as it is since he's been in power. I mean, bro, I can keep bringing up 2020 many times right now to strengthen my example, but we all saw exactly what happened. There's many documentaries about 2020, the rioting, the looting, the destruction, the death. People suffered because of that shit, bro, under Tim Walz. And it's insane to me that he's still been in power for this long and has not been incarcerated or charged with insurrection. It's insane to me.
you're seeing it is loud, Dana, but this is very controlled. You've seen a lot of flare-ups in Chicago. This is a very controlled thing, although it is continuing to try to find out more about what happened. But Dana, that's
Whitney, you probably can't hear yourself think because it's so loud there. It's a little hard for us to hear what you're saying because obviously there are a lot of people there who are quite angry. If you can hear me, and perhaps it's too early to know the answer to this, but it sounds like officials are being quite careful when they just say a shooting involving a federal.
Again, like I said before, I'm getting all angles of I'm getting both sides of the aisle. I'm getting Fox and I'm getting CNN, of course. Like I said, to be a good political commentator, you have to get both sides. So.
Agent. Does that mean that somebody who they were going after, who ICE was going after, was shot? Was there a shootout, or we don't know?
We don't know. We don't know. I don't know if you can hear me, but it's starting to get really spicy. So let me give you context of what is going on here. Dana, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
I put my microphone a little closer to my mouth. Okay. That's Police Chief Brian O'Hara right now. The crowd is really directing their frustration that direction at the moment. People here are really angry. We're hearing them yell at the Minneapolis Police Department. They don't feel like the Minneapolis Police Department is serving the Minneapolis voters, the Minneapolis taxpayers right now. And so right now what you're hearing is a lot of anger directed toward the local law enforcement here, even though they were not involved in this shooting. As far as we know, Dana.
All right, Whitney, we're gonna let you go. Obviously, it is interesting that you're saying that their anger is towards local law enforcement. I would imagine, in addition to federal law enforcement, ICE agents in particular. So we're gonna let you go. We're gonna let you do some reporting. Stay safe, and we will get back to you as soon as you get more. Thanks so much for your terrific reporting, Whitney. DHS has confirmed that an individual has died. The alleged perpetrator was hit and is deceased. ICE officers who were hurt are expected to make full recoveries. Can you fill in the blanks, Priscilla?
Yeah, Dana, let's set the scene here. So in Minneapolis right now, the Department of Homeland Security has surged thousands of agents. There are around 2,000 agents that have been deployed to the state of Minnesota, and there have been ongoing operations, especially in Minneapolis. So that is what has been ongoing in that city and in that area. And this morning, the Department of Homeland Security says that they were conducting what they call these targeted operations. That is to say that they went out to a location, they had a target in mind. Over the course of that operation, according to their statement, ICE officers and one of these violent rioters are calling weaponized their vehicle. This is according to their statement. And they also go on to say, attempting to run over our law enforcement officers. And they call this an act of domestic terrorism. And they say that is what prompted an ICE officer, who they said was fearing for their life, to fire these defensive shots. And this alleged perpetrator was hit and is deceased. This is according to the Department of Homeland Security. I have asked the Department of Homeland Security if this was a U.S. citizen, because we do not know the status of this individual who was in this vehicle.
Okay, so this is before the information came out. So this was reported right after the incident happened, and they didn't get any details just yet. Okay.
Now, of course, we have seen in multiple cities that the actions of ICE as they carry out their operations has prompted protesters and rioters at some of these operations. But generally, I will say, Diana, in talking to my...
There you go. I mean, I'm glad CNN actually said that. I mean, they're being very fair to ICE, because usually they're very hostile and they use very derogative terms towards ICE that gets this problem coming their way every time. I mean, like these news anchors are literally from CNN and from left-wing media are literally using rhetoric that keeps getting ICE agents targeted. I mean, they keep calling them Gustavo, they keep calling them Nazis, keep calling them fascists. You know, something funny enough, these rioters were sit here and scream fascists at these ICE agents, and yet they're attacking them. They're the ones doing it. They're the ones attacking them. The ICE agents are just trying to do their jobs and trying to get out the way. They're getting screamed at and being called fascists. They're the ones being attacked. I genuinely don't understand, like, how you calling someone a fascist and then you're going to be the one to attack them.
Over the course of the morning, there are a lot of questions here about these defensive shots the Department of Homeland Security is talking about, because generally the policy for ICE officers to use to shoot would be if the subject poses, quote, an imminent threat of serious injury and or death. So there are a lot of questions here as to what prompted that defensive shot outside of the use of the vehicle. And it is these types of questions that would prompt also an internal investigation at the Department of Homeland Security, typically to try to get the answers as to what exactly unfolded here for there to be a fatal incident that includes immigration and customs enforcement. And again, it is immigration and customs enforcement that was involved here, according to DHS. Recall that there are multiple agencies that are on the ground doing these immigration enforcement operations, and even photos of the scene showed, at least after the fact, that it was both ICE on the ground as well as local police department and U.S. Border Patrol, which has similarly been deployed to Minneapolis to continue the operation. So we are still trying to seek more answers here, Dana, but at the outset, what we know is that there was an ICE-involved shooting, that there has been a fatality. We're trying to get what the status of that person was, if they were a U.S. citizen, but of course against the backdrop of this massive immigration operation.
Priscilla, thank you so much for that reporting. If you out there are wondering, like I am, what's going on with Whitney Wild in Minneapolis, she is fine. She's talking to some of the people there who are pretty exercised.
All right. So now we're going to go and see what the actual protest looks like now. This was after the incident took place. This is live now from Fox.
We're going to be keeping an eye on this live look above this crowd of demonstrators in the Twin Cities after an immigration and customs enforcement officer shot and killed a Minneapolis driver.
My God, bro. I wonder on scale, was this larger than George Floyd riots? I wonder in scale, was this way larger in numbers? I have to find out right now. I don't know if they got the numbers up right now. It's how many people attended this protest compared to George Floyd's protest. I wouldn't even call that a protest. I call that riots. So
earlier today, it's the story we've been following all day since it took place. It's a shooting that federal officials said was an act of self-defense, but that the mayor of Minneapolis described as reckless and unnecessary. The AP says the 37-year-old woman was shot in front of a family member during a traffic stop in a snowy residential neighborhood south of downtown Minneapolis. The woman has been identified as Renee Nicole Good, who described herself as a mother, a wife, and a poet, according to the New York Post. Videos taken from different vantage points show an officer approaching an SUV stopped across the middle of the road, demanding the driver open the door and grabbing the handle. The Honda Pilot begins to pull forward, and a different ICE officer standing in front of the vehicle pulls his weapon and immediately fires at least 2 shots into the vehicle at close range, jumping back as the vehicle moves toward him. Again, this is a story that we're going to continue to track all night, especially as we're also hearing that there's demonstrations planned in major cities across the country in light of what happened today in Minneapolis. Standing by is Jeffrey Halstead. He's the former chief of police for Fort Worth, Texas, the Fort Worth Police Department there. Jeffrey, in your experience, what do federal and local use of force policies generally say about firing at or near a moving vehicle? And what specific facts would have to be present for an officer to lawfully justify shooting a driver who is blocking a road and then begins to drive off?
Yeah, the complexity of shooting in a moving vehicle is, we've actually altered our training in the last 2 decades to adjust it to the use of deadly force because, unlike movies, that bullet is not going to stop the threat of a moving vehicle. With that said, in these types of instances, you notice the one agent that's reaching into a vehicle, that's also highly discouraged in advanced police training and tactical training, because reaching into a moving vehicle, more than likely you're going to be dragged along the street and you're actually putting yourself in harm's way, and that reacts for an escalation of force. So a couple of errors on the onset, but then again, when you look at the totality of those circumstances, it's milliseconds that's happening. And, the driver's probably wanting to get out of a very precarious situation and an angry crowd. And then the ICE officers want them to stop to do more conversations. And then when someone is hit and then the use of force is deployed, you have to let this investigation continue, unfold, and be completed before jumping to those judgments, because it's consistent policy across city, county, state, and federal law enforcement about the use of deadly force into a moving vehicle. It will not stop your threat. You need to assess your personal situation and make adjustments so that you can reduce and calm those escalating matters very, very rapidly.
Moments ago, we heard from Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security Secretary. DHS says the driver was, quote, attempting to run over officers. Minneapolis' Mayor Jacob Frey, on the other hand, says the video does not support self-defense. Jeffrey, when there are dueling narratives like this, what pieces of evidence tend to be most decisive? Is it something like a body camera, radio traffic, witness statements? And how do investigators test each of those types of evidence for reliability?
The point of view of all persons involved is going to be your most compelling evidence. What is happening here that is not good for the situation and good for the community are these immediate conversations that are coming from very powerful elected officials. This investigation needs to take place, get forward, and come to a conclusion before these rash judgments are made. With that said, when you look at these conversations, body cam video is without a doubt, from the point of view of those officers, going to be very compelling. Also witness statements, also the bullet fragments and the way the bullet traveled upon, when it was deployed from the handgun, that also helps. But all of this takes so much time, and to make an assessment within an hour, whether it's justified or not, or it's almost reckless. You have to let the professionals, and remember, these investigation arms are absolutely removed away from both of these elements. You have a state and an FBI. Let those investigations take forth. But those body cameras and other video perspectives are going to shed a little bit of light for the split-second decisions that had to be made, and also with respect to the driver who has passed. That's also going to get a good narrative for what they were seeing, facing, and what decisions they were making going forward.
Jeffrey, in addition to this demonstration in the Twin Cities area, we've also got a demonstration live in New York City as well. Right now, our cameras are traversing the ground there, moving through some of these protesters. It looks like they're adjusting their shot as we speak. I just saw, by the way, another protest in Milwaukee, and I've heard of others on the West Coast later tonight as well. DHS officials have used phrases like defensive shots, while other leaders have urged caution. I need to ask you, if an officer approaches a vehicle on foot during a high-stress operation, what are the standard training principles designed to reduce the risk of a shooting?
Well, the way that this vehicle was positioned, and so what makes this one much more challenging than just a traffic stop or another street contact, is there's already escalated tension for days, if not weeks or months. If you remember the sniper shooting in Dallas against ICE, that elevates everything, and then comments made from different elected officials, those also make these situations escalated. With that said, approaching the vehicle from the rear is always the most advantageous, clearing the rear of the vehicle, checking the rear compartment, and then making contact in a calm, delivered manner to the driver and the other occupants of the vehicle. When you start approaching and or going towards the front, two things. One, you're never going to physically push back or hold back a vehicle, especially in those icy conditions. And you actually put yourself in extreme harm's way. You don't have clear view of the occupants of the vehicle, their hands, and what they're doing. You're relying on what the conversation flow is going from the initial driver's side or the contact officer. And then you put yourself in an extremely precarious and very, very dangerous situation. Staying behind the contact officer and keeping a clear line of sight as to what's happening keeps you in a much safer area. And then you're going to be a good witness and backup officer, which is what we train to do in both highway stops, traffic stops, and high-risk felony stops.
Governor Tim Walz says that he issued a warning order to prepare the National Guard. In practical terms, Jeffrey, what does prepare mean versus deployment? And if the Guard is activated, how do their authorities, their training, and their use of force standards differ from police in a volatile crowd situation?
Yeah, the preparing for the National Guard is really just getting them to pre-mobilization status. So they want to make sure that all of those troops and commands are actually notified and ready, and then they get them to start getting briefed on these situations. When they are deployed, they are there for eyes of calm and eyes of present and keeping a strong security line, though probably going to initiate some kind of a curfew at some point so that they can try to level these tensions and start decreasing them. Right now, tonight and tomorrow are going to be the most volatile days of this incident. This is extremely tragic. It's also extremely dangerous. Of course, you're going to have to get ready to mobilize some additional assets because you need a force multiplier, which is what the National Guard would do, and they will work in sync with providing a safety delivery of resources to calm these down so they don't get riotous like we saw when you go way back to the LA riots and the other Georgia.
And it's a good idea to deploy the National Guard to quell the protesters. That's actually a smart thing to do. They should have did that in 2020, but hey, better late than never.
Floyd riots, we want to make sure that these remain calm. Let the investigation continue. And I always remind people, especially activist group and activist leaders, law enforcement has a very strong history of holding people highly accountable, especially in deadly force confrontations. Let this investigation finish. And if there is fault or if there's a lack of adjustment for the training, that is going to be addressed very quickly. But this investigation has to be concluded.
People have been combing through these videos, and I know you've seen them too. We've seen videos from plenty of different angles of this incident. By the way, what we're looking at right here is some of the aftermath. Okay, there's the vehicle crash itself. After the woman was shot, who I'll just reiterate, she has been identified now as Renee Nicole Good, who is described as a mother, a wife, and a poet. Jeffrey, how is it possible that so many different people can have such a different take and such a different perspective after seeing the same pieces of footage capturing the same events?
Yeah, you know what makes this even worse is so much of the social media narrative can be misinformation, disinformation, and actually put a delineation of many aspects of our community as well as our nation. We're living in this right now. We really, really are. Law enforcement takes a bipartisan and a non-political stance on many issues. However, in the last few years, it's become a very, very political mission. And that is very, very dangerous. And it's very challenging because
Yeah, law enforcement is not supposed to be like biased towards one political party or the other. They have to be nonpartisan because that's the job of law enforcement. Because like the presidency could change from a Republican to Democrat on any given election. And say if you were to put a partisan on police officers, how would that work? You know, it wouldn't be very good long term for law enforcement to be conducted that way under a partisan worldview. It has to be nonpartisan, basically speaking. So yeah, I do agree with that. Even to this day, I still agree with that because like it'd be kind of hard to really kind of enforce, unless say you have like a dictator, then hey, you can they are partisan by then because like you only have one ruler of a said country.
you're trying to keep the peace and keep things calm.
I could only dream.
But their mere presence can escalate and raise the tension, and that can be very, very challenging for them.
You know, one of my major questions moving forward here, the investigation is being handled by Minnesota's Bureau of Criminal Apprehension in conjunction with the FBI. Walk us through the standard investigative playbook when a federal agent shoots a civilian. Who interviews the shooter? Who controls the evidence? What else happens next?
Now you're going to start bringing in many of the union and or the association protective interests. So you're going to have attorneys and other people standing with these involved officers. Even witness officers can request legal, but the lead investigator for both of these agencies are going to work in concert, but they're not going to work together. What you need is two completely separate investigative reports that come out that are non-affiliated, non-attached, and they can actually deliver a standard finding. And then they're going to compare both of these summaries fact-based. I've been involved in multiple serious high-profile, some globally protested investigations. It takes a lot of time, but the legal ramifications of due process of individual officers, both city, county, state, and federal, that has to be respected so you don't tarnish and or hinder the investigation mission and the ethics of this investigation going forward, should charges be filed.
What are your big questions moving forward here? There's so many different ways that we have covered this, and as I've discussed, there's so many different viewpoints and perspectives about what happened here. What are your big questions about the investigation ahead?
The big question for me is, how are we, and I say we, going to politicians, elected officials, and very powerful people, how are we going to come to a conversation thread when we can work cohesively together for common missions and common goals? We are so far away from that as a nation, and it troubles many of us, not just in law enforcement, but just good citizens that really want to work collectively, regardless of your party affiliation, and try to make things better for brothers and sisters and moms and dads and things like that. The big question would be, what is it going to take to bring calm so we can work collectively and address the complex law enforcement mission that they've been told to accomplish? We got to do a much better job of communicating effectively in days of calm and working cohesively with our brothers and sisters in both sides of the aisles in many aspects of law enforcement so we can do this in concert together, because right now it's so divisive and it's so hostile. It's going to take a long time to come to an amenable end to this.
How do law enforcement agencies, whether it be on the local or the federal level, how do they prepare for what very well could be an active couple of nights ahead here? We don't exactly know how long this demonstration is going to go on for.
Make sure you like the video. Again, like the video, leave a comment. Let me know how you guys feeling about it so far. I'm getting kind of sleepy a little bit. Holy shit. I literally just woke up not too long ago before I got on stream. So forgive me. I'm still a little tired. Even though we've been on for like 2 hours. Been cooking right now. We're going to continue on right now. We still got like, we're going to have family, friends. We're going to jump to Fox 2 Detroit, and then we're going to get Tom Homan's reaction to the shooting in Minneapolis as well. That's going to be the final video of this show. So again, like the video, leave a comment. If you want to comment, let me know how you guys feel about today's show. I haven't really been checking the comments much, actually. I've been focused on running the show right now.
Are getting together in South Minneapolis to remember Renee Nicole Good, who was fatally shot by an ICE agent during a federal immigration operation. That operation ending with two very different versions of what led up to that shooting. ICE calls it self-defense. The mayor calls it reckless abuse of power. Good evening, everybody. I'm Ruparaj. We begin tonight with video from the scene and a warning for you. It is graphic. 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good was shot in front of a family member in a snowy residential neighborhood.
Like I said, we've already been over the video again. We already analyzed it. We've seen it so many times now. I've already said this before. The ICE agent was in front. She is technically using the car as a weapon. That is a federal crime against a federal law enforcement. So Yeah, it's felony. Yeah, that's for sure. If she wasn't killed, she would have been prosecuted and charged.
But south of the downtown there, Homeland Security officials say she tried to run over the Ram ICE officers with her vehicle, calling it an act of domestic terrorism. But witnesses say that's not what they saw. Here's how some of them describe what happened.
I watched as a third person in full camo and pulled several times on the door handle, at which point the red vehicle reversed a few feet and started driving around. And the person who was by the driver's side, originally, not the man who pulled on the door, but who was originally there, shot through the driver's side window 3 times.
And there was a maroon Honda kind of sideways in the road, and people were shouting move your car, you're obstructing the road. And the car began to back up and then pull forward at maybe 2 miles an hour. And then someone started to shout, no, no. And then a moment later, 4 or 5 shots were fired into the vehicle. And at that point, I believe the person's foot hit the gas pedal pretty hard, and then it crashed into the nearest car on the opposite side of the street.
I saw the car parked in the road, and then a bunch of ICE agents walking up, screaming at her to move. And then when she backed up and then started to turn away to move and to get out of their way, then one of the guys jumped in front of the car. Another guy tried to rip the door open, and then someone yelled stop, and then I heard gunshots.
Well, as you know, the shooting has sparked intense outrage. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey not holding back. In a profanity-laced press conference, he called the shooting reckless and demanded that ICE leave town.
They are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is bull. There's little I can say, again, that'll make this situation better, but I do have a message for our community, for our city, and I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis.
And Minnesota Governor Tim Walz echoing the sentiment of the Minneapolis mayor, saying today recklessness costs someone their life.
Minnesotans, I say this. I feel your anger. I'm angry. We do not need any further help from the federal government. To Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, you've done enough.
Walz says he reached out to Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem and is now waiting to hear back. More than 2,000 officers have been deployed in the Twin Cities from ICE as part of the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. This case is sparking outrage across the country. A crowd tonight pouring into downtown Detroit to protest. Let's get live. The Fox's Lauren Edwards. She's there now where all of these protests happen. She spoke to the organizers, and Lauren, I'm sure they had a lot to say.
Oh, absolutely, Roop. You know, before any of this happened, I just took a quick look at the map. Just wanted to see how far Minneapolis is away from here. And it's about 10 hours and 27 minutes. And even though the tragedy happened over there, it was definitely felt here. Many saying that it's the reason why they gathered and protested in the area behind us. Take a quick listen to just some of the chanting.
No ban, no wall, sanctuary for all.
Now, as you're looking at right now, dozens of Detroiters in front of the ICE building on Michigan Avenue in the downtown area, protesting that fatal shooting of Renee Good up in Minneapolis. And as Minnesotans took to the streets, so did Detroiters marching and chanting through the downtown area as well. And the protest was organized by Comité de Acción Comunitaria, which is also known as Detroit Community Action Committee. And we spoke with the lead organizer.
The fact that they're in Spanish is crazy to me, bro. What? Their name is in Spanish. Bro, this America is built from Englishmen, not Spaniards. Oh my gosh, bro. I'm about to go into a fucking rant in a minute, bro. These people, bro, this is why a lot of these Spaniards need to go home, bro. Like, this is insane to me. A lot of these Spaniards, I don't care if some of them have citizenship. Denaturalization don't cost us much, bro, to get rid of some of these people, bro.
Her name is Cassandra Rodriguez, and she says the shooting was an absolute abuse of power.
I hate that this is happening, and, you know, I think I can speak for a lot of us when I say I'm angry. You know, this...
Bro, she's a fat cow, too. Holy shit.
This shouldn't be happening, and I think a lot of us have been out in the streets protesting stuff like this before, and, you know, it's not surprising to us, but it's always devastating. We will continue to fight for better change, for accountability in our cities. I think this is something that should never be happening and is completely unacceptable, and I think it's up to our local governments to really take a hard stance against something like this and not allow ICE to just do whatever they want in our neighborhoods.
Now, coming up on the edge, we also asked her, and she talked about just the legal rights that the woman had for even just being there, and others there too. We're going to get into all that again up on the edge. For now, reporting live here in downtown Detroit, Lauren Edwards, Fox 2 News.
Yeah, I know there's been so much concern across the country about ICE agents kind of coming in and being deployed into cities across this nation. Folks in Minneapolis not happy with what they're seeing there. Are there concerns from the people you talked to today that they'll see a similar deployment in our state?
Oh, absolutely. And they've already talked about it, and they talked about what's already been going on. And they said over and over again, the chanting, the protesting, gathering like that, they do that to bring awareness to what's going on, to bring awareness, to stand in solidarity with, sadly, the tragedy that happened up in Minneapolis, but also what's happening here.
Well, certainly they did it in the way they're supposed to, which is peacefully, and they got their voices heard. Lauren Edwards, First Live Tonight. Thank you. Minneapolis leaders are now blaming the federal government, saying there was little to no communication ahead of the operation. The mayor and governor say they were left in the dark and are demanding answers. Former chief of police for the Detroit Police Department, Ralph Godby, joining us now in studio with some perspective, and it's good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I want to ask you, there's a couple layers and levels here, but the first one that we'll just leave off where that lead in let in, which said that the officials there wished that they were in the loop when it came to the federal deployment. Although no local official would want a deployment, what is the right way to do that?
Well, the fact that they wanted to be included in the conversation speaks volumes, because there's a level of coordination that has to happen between state, federal, and local. There's a level of deconfliction that needs to happen as well to make sure that no officers are operating in a way where they can hurt one another or someone innocently can be caught in a crossfire. So that's extremely important for span of control, for processing of prisoners, for service of warrants. There are just so many things that go into that. To drop 2,000 agents into an area without coordination and cooperation, it's a recipe for disaster.
Talk for a moment about what you've seen. Now, I'm sure you've seen that video probably close to 100 times, looking at it on your own as you research, but also watching it in the media. What strikes you when you see that video right away?
I think the first thing that jumps out at me when I was chief in Detroit, particularly the 2 years that I was in charge, we were charged by the Department of Justice to enforce policy and make policy change that would forbid a shooting from or at a moving vehicle. So the irony is not lost on me that this very situation goes into what the Department of Justice, under 2 consent judgments, mandated that we revise our policy.
About how things like that are handled.
Absolutely. And the preference is if there's any way possible for the officer to secrete themselves and get out of the way of the vehicle if they feel that that's an imminent danger. What we saw in that video, from my professional experience, almost 29 years in policing, actively taught as an adjunct professor, it is hard for me to see a justification for lethal force.
It is simply too soon, out of decency, to place blame at this hour on anyone. But I do want, for a moment, to just reflect on what happens in a situation where an ICE agent or a police officer stops someone. It was clear that this person was trying to avoid contact, was trying to get away in some way, shape, or form. The most important thing that everyone at home can do, whether you agree with this arrest or you don't, is to do what?
It is to abide by the officer's order, because at the end of the day, I think that the shooting is not going to be found to be proper from a force continuum standpoint. But the reality is, for the victim and for the 6-year-old orphan that is now left, she may have had the right of way, but at the same behest, we're mourning loss of life. I'm shook. As a lifelong practitioner, I spent a lot of my career trying to build bridges in communities, and this just destroys trust and legitimacy with communities with what our badges are supposed to represent.
And especially when a group like ICE is trying to come into these communities and these men and women are trying to do their jobs, now the trust is degraded with them, so it puts their kind of their credibility at risk. But I do want to ask you one final question about what you saw in that video. When you see that that vehicle kind of move forward after there was that confrontation, it seems as though she wasn't willing to stop. Did you, in your mind, see that she was trying to ram into officers?
No, I did not. It appeared as if she was just trying to clear and flee the area at most, which is not punishable by death, number one. But it did not appear just on first blush. Now, we always Monday morning quarterback. So for that specific officer to make a decision, we have to assess that officer's decision based on a reasonable officer's standpoint. But from my perspective and from my training and experience and policy implementation, it did not appear as if that was the most prudent action to take.
And I think laymen and laywomen like us out there need to kind of reserve our judgment and wait for more experts like yourself and others to look at the video and really figure this out, whether they're Republicans or Democrats. If you're in the expert division of this, you should be looking at it, and hopefully this will be adjudicated in the way that it should. Ralph Godby, former police chief of Detroit, it's good to see you. We thank you for joining us, even under such sad circumstances.
Thank you.
All right. We're thinking of that family, obviously, too, of Renee Good and her child. Our coverage of this story doesn't stop here. Later in the hour, we'll be joined by attorney Eli Muad to help provide some critical context and insight into this rapidly developing situation. Your home for breaking news across Michigan and the country is always here on Fox 2 and Fox Local.
All right, so now we're going to end off with listening to Tom Homan, the chief, the border czar, on the shooting that happened in Minneapolis. So now he's going to give his take on this right now. And then after this, we're going to close out. We went on for like two hours. Yeah. So I'm going to close out after this. W stream. They got a big turnout for today's stream. I'm probably going to start making 1 p.m. my new start time. I'm probably going to go a little bit shorter tomorrow, or I'm going to probably like restream one of my old episodes tomorrow, depending on how I feel. Because there's not really much news to really cover. Unless like something really groundbreaking happens with this ICE stuff, there's not really much for me to talk about. But I think Trump and the Trump administration did capture another oil rig. So I might cover that tomorrow. I'll see. There's not much really to news-wise. There's nothing really going on. Honestly speaking, Iran and Israel going to war will give me news coverages right now. Will give me something, because like a lot of this stuff is kind of like not that interesting to me. I mean, foreign policy is more interesting to talk about. But anyways, I digress. We're gonna get into Tom Homan's exclusive interview that was done 20 hours ago.
Because it's a busy day, it's also a sad day. We had an incident in Minneapolis. According to the Department of Homeland Security, a woman attempted to weaponize her vehicle, that's a quote, ram an agent, run over an agent. The department's called it an act of domestic terrorism. Open fire, that woman is dead this evening. Many Americans are watching videos of this incident online, and they're seeing something different than what the department is describing. I'd like to show you one of those videos so you can talk directly to Americans tonight about what they're seeing. Just tell me what you see when you see this. There's the shot. Vehicle veers off, hits a pole or a barrier of some sort, and the woman's dead. When you see that, some Americans respond with, this was not justified, this was not necessary. Tell them, this is really about them. What do you see when you see this video?
Well, look, I just got off the airplane. There's 100 different videos out there, and there may be body cam video. I'm not going to comment on that. There's an ongoing investigation. But I think it's reckless, what I'm seeing on social media. I've seen at least 7 or 8 members of Congress make the comment that ICE just murdered somebody. Murdered, right? Now, I said back in March, and I'm on numerous programs, when the rhetoric started escalating back in late March, I said, if this rhetoric continues, there will be bloodshed. I've seen this movie before. I've done this for over 40 years. And sadly, I was right. There has been bloodshed. There's been attacks on ICE officers. There have been people killed. Even our detainees were killed here in Dallas.
Yeah.
The investigation's ongoing. There's a lot of video, a lot of evidence hasn't been seen yet. I'm not a forensics expert. And neither are the people and members of Congress commenting on this. They all just hold their judgment. Take a deep breath. Hold their judgment. Because I think the comments about murder is going to incite what? More violence, more threats, and hopefully not more bloodshed.
And I want to get into that. I want to get into the increase in violence and threats against ICE officers, but I also want to linger for a moment on this incident because it's a really important one. I think the city of Minneapolis is on edge. I think the country is on edge right now. You say the investigation is ongoing.
The investigation just started.
Just started. You say you can't comment on the video, which many Americans are seeing and reacting to.
I'm not going to make a judgment call on one video when there's 100 videos out there. I wasn't on the scene. I'm not an officer that may have body cam video. It'd be unprofessional to comment on what I think happened in that situation. Let the investigation play out and hold people accountable based on the investigation.
I think many members of the public are calling for the same thing, and so they're confused. Maybe you can help me understand how the Department of Homeland Security could conclude so swiftly that this is a, quote, act of domestic terrorism, that this woman, quote, weaponized her vehicle. By the very same standard you described, this investigation is just getting started.
That's the question for Homeland Security. On the borders are. Well, I can tell you what I've seen on my airplane ride here, looking at numerous videos, seeing numerous social media posts, statements from Homeland Security, statements from Secretary Noem. I'll leave it at that.
But as a law enforcement officer,
what good is it to do right now to me prejudge the facts of what happened today without giving law enforcement professionals, whether it's FBI or the local police there, give them time to look at all the videos, talk to all the witnesses, talk to the officers, and make an educated decision on what occurred today. That's what needs to happen. I've been a cop since 1984. That is the process we must go through.
the reason I ask you about actions in the interior of the country, even though your title is Borders Czar, is when you were announced, in that announcement, Donald Trump said you would be responsible for all deportations of illegal aliens. So that's the mission there in Minneapolis, right?
One of my missions, yes.
Yeah. So this is an incident under your purview.
A tragedy happened today. Sad tragedy. You know, every night when I go to bed, and I've said this 100 times on other interviews, I pray for the safety of the men and women with ICE and Border Patrol. I also pray that nobody dies, including the people we're looking for. I don't want to see anybody die.
And now 5 people have died in incidents. 4 immigrants, and now a woman who we don't know what she was doing. Perhaps she was intending harm. Perhaps she was a protester. We don't know.
Well, let's not forget, ICE agents been shot at too.
Yes.
ICE agents been injured.
Yes.
Assaults against ICE agents over 1,300%.
Yes.
I mean, this is you know, this, and I'll say it again. I've said it 1,000 times. I blame a lot of this on the hateful rhetoric of mayors and governors and some in Congress, who, you know, they want to call it, they want to compare ICE to the Nazis and to racists and the Gestapo. ICE isn't enforcing laws they enacted. ICE isn't making this up. So if a member of Congress saying, ICE, you're enforcing laws we enacted, you're a racist. They wrote the law.
In the spirit of fairness now, I mean, there are people who are angry at ICE because they hear from this administration, members of it, Stephen Miller, sometimes the president himself, what they consider to be racist, inflammatory language against immigrants, against migrants, both illegal and not. Is there not a double standard here?
What racial rhetoric are you talking about from the administration?
I'm not going to litigate comment by comment here. So I'm just
I don't see any racial, you know, right away, you know, the left wants to pull that, the race card.
He's probably talking about the Somali rant that Trump went on. If you look at who's the big recipients in the state of Minneapolis alone, so the Somali community makes up the most intakers of welfare. So he wasn't wrong in what he said.
It has to be racist. ICE isn't doing anything different than they did for decades. The problem is, last 4 years, ICE wasn't able to do the job. ICE is out, and the data proves it, even though a lot of media don't want to talk about accurate data. Nearly 70%, I think it's like 68 point something percent of everybody ICE arrested is a criminal.
Sorry, what percentage?
Just below 70%, I think it's 68.7.
Is a criminal, has a criminal record.
Is a convicted criminal pending criminal charges.
Right, so 30% are not. And so part of the reason.
And who is that 30%? 30%? A lot of our national security cases who don't have a criminal history because their whole game is to lay low until they do the dirty deed. A lot of our final orders, these are people who had due process at great taxpayer expense, were ordered removed by a federal judge and didn't leave. Yeah. We're looking for them. The message we can't send to the rest of the world is enter the country legally. It's a crime. Don't worry about it. Have due process, show up in court or don't show up in court, get a final order. Don't worry about it. If that's the message we send to the whole world, you're never going to fix this problem. What the bottom line is this. President Trump has illegal immigration down 96%, which means 96% less people are now coming, which means less women are being sexually assaulted by members of the cartel, less children, and the most vulnerable are dying making that journey. Less fentanyl is getting in the country, kill Americans. Sex trafficking.
Yeah, but let me push back a little bit. We're still not getting the numbers that we need, Tom. Come on, man. We still have not gotten the numbers that we need. 10 million were let in over 4 years. We didn't even deport a million last year alone. Like, when are we going to deport 1 million illegal immigrants, bro? I'm just got to keep it real right now, Tom. I mean, like, you people are not happy already as it is, and you want us to sit up here and say that, yeah, I get it, the border's closed. I'm happy the border's closed for business, but we still haven't deported the amount of immigrants that we're supposed to deport right now. We still have way too many here. We got to get on the ball right now to get the rest of them out of here. Like, and I get it. If financial reasons, it's going to be hard, especially with lack of manpower. But at the same time, it can be done. And if there is a way it can be done, then it needs to be done. Okay.
African women and children have declined increasingly. So secure borders saving lives. The message we're going to send to the whole world is that there are consequences of violating laws. And one of the reasons we have the most secure border in the history of this nation is not only because the men and women of border patrols doing what
Mr. Holman, I've been down there.
But a lot of the reason we have the most secure border in history of this nation is because ICE operations. They're sending a clear message. There are consequences for violating our laws.
I want to get back to the mission, your effort to make it effective, and the question of safety. Given the situation now in Minneapolis, the level of public anger, the videos that when many Americans see them, they see either unnecessary violence or they see excessive force. Do you believe that this mission in Minneapolis and nationwide can still be carried out in a way that is effective for you, but at the very same time safe for everyone else?
Yes, and we're going to continue the mission.
The mayor of Minneapolis.
You can protest all you want. You have that right. But you can't impede. You can't interfere. You certainly can't assault ICE officers or threaten to assault them. So we're going to continue this mission.
These videos that for months and months have been going around that people watch and they share and they say, look at this case of excessive force. Again, I'm not going to litigate any particular incident or ask you in detail about it, but I'm curious, you've seen these videos. I'm sure you've seen more than is even public. Have you seen any examples of clear excessive force displayed by ICE agents and officers in the field?
No.
During the whole administration?
Things that I've seen?
Yeah.
No. And when I hear things, I see a story that an allegation is made, I follow up, make sure that it's being fully investigated. But I haven't seen one ICE officer found guilty of anything inappropriate. Look, again, I'm not involved in every arrest. We're making thousands of arrests a day, over 2,000 a day on average. I can't be aware of every ICE arrest. I trust the men and women of ICE and the Border Patrol are well trained. They get Fourth Amendment training every 6 months. I'm putting my faith in them that they do the right thing every day out there. And if they don't, they'll be held accountable.
So help me understand then, what is your explanation for, if you say all the cases you've ever seen, all the videos that you've ever had pop up on your social media, all this stuff, you've never seen an example of excessive force. What in your mind explains the public anger and frustration with ICE and some of its tactics? We've seen it in polling, you see it in the streets. What's your explanation for it?
I think a lot is based on false media reporting. I think it's the hateful rhetoric being pushed by mayors, governors, and members of Congress. But for instance, I read a story last night that a majority of people ICE arrest, matter of fact, less than 10% of people ICE arrest are criminals. Really? I look at the data every morning. I read 22 pages of data. I see exactly what's going on. So when the people are looking at social media posts and media posts are simply.
I mean, if you're going to constitute what a criminal is, I mean, like according to immigration law, anyone here illegally, and even to the regular law, a criminal is someone who commits a crime. Coming here illegally and being here illegally is a crime. It constitutes under a crime. Whether that be immigration law or even regular law, that is a crime. So whatever these progressives, these liberals throw out that saying that ICE only promised to arrest criminals, these people that are here illegally are criminals still. So that's technically not wrong. They're arresting criminals. So I don't know what else you want them to do.
Not factual at all, not even close. they get a judgment, right? They read something, say this is happening. Well, it's not happening. 70%. I mean, Washington Examiner just came out. They looked at all the data. I look at the data every day. A lot of people are being misled. And I think a lot of videos out there, you know, what happened 30 seconds before that video? What happened 30 seconds after that video?
So now you are commenting on the video. These are questions
when
that
I see videos, you just asked me if I see them being inappropriate.
Yeah.
No. But you don't know what happened 30, either do I.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to comment on something I don't see. But what I've seen and through my reviews, I haven't seen ICE officer act inappropriately.
So as a former...
We're going to enforce the laws, and we're going to do without apology.
So as
and if you get in the way, you step over that line, you're going to be prosecuted. You will be arrested. That's what I see every day. I see impediment. I see interference. I see ICE officers and border relations being attacked.
So that video I showed you, it's conceivable in your mind, based on your training, based on your role as former acting director of ICE, that officer may well have been acting in self-defense. That's your view of this?
I'm not going to comment on this ongoing investigation that just started. Let the investigators do the job.
The governor of Minnesota has described the federal presence there, the ICE presence, as like an attack, like an invasion. The mayor says it's causing chaos in the streets. He says, quote, get the F out of Minneapolis. Assuming that you're not going to do that.
First of all, he's causing chaos on the street. You want...
If you're new to the channel, like I said, subscribe, like the channel, leave a comment, of course. If you're new coming in here or watching the show, remember, leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know how you feel about the content so far. This is Tonight in America, where we talk about geopolitics and the culture war over here. Right now, we're talking about that ICE-involved shooting that took place the other day in Minneapolis. So... So we broke down the video, we broke down the analysis, we got the testimony from people that were there, eyewitnesses, of course. Then we got the legality aspects. We pretty much got everything we need to do. We covered all grounds on today's show right now. And then we got, like I said, we got legal experts that gave you their opinion of what they saw, and like Andrew McCarthy, who gave you his legal experts from being a former attorney in the Southern District of New York. He told you himself. I mean, like, the ICE agent, what he did was justifiable and lawful. So, but like I said, remember, just leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know how you guys like today's show. And yeah, we're gonna keep cooking right now. We're winding down the show right now. We're reacting to the final video of today's show. Then I will be back tomorrow at 1. I'm going to make that my new time now. I'll probably go live at 2:30, and I'll go on the air at 1 o'clock exactly.
That's ICE agents in the street.
Not 2:30, 12:30. My bad, 12:30.
Then let us in the jail. They're sanctuary city. Let us arrest that public safety threat that you decided to lock in a jail cell. You made that decision. Let ICE officers tuck that person. Because when you get fingerprinted, if you get arrested tonight, you, me, or anybody else, you get fingerprinted, your prints run against NCIC. You also run against DHS databases. So we know this person sitting in that jail right now that we have a warrant for, or is a prior deport. Give us access to that person. When you're done with them, let us have them. That way, safer for the public, because you're not releasing public safety threats back into the public. It's safer for the officer, and it's safer for the alien. Let us in the jail. So, you know, I've said it 1,000 times ever since this, you know, I've been doing this job. Let us in the jail. There's no downside to that. But the sanctuary city politicians say, well, we're a welcoming community. We're a sanctuary city because we want victims and witnesses of a crime that are in the United States illegally feel safe to come to us with fear we're not working with ICE. That's crap. Victims and witnesses of crime don't want the bad guy released back in the neighborhood either. And we're not looking to talk to the victim and witness. We want to talk to the guy that they locked in the jail cell. That's what we want. The more of that we can do, the less internal enforcement community operations we have to do.
I want to ask you a kind of a bald question here. I mean, just a straight up question. You're telling me you've never seen in your tenure any example of excessive force. You're telling me you've not heard any comment from any member of this administration that is inflammatory or racist or in any way demeaning toward the immigrant community. That's what you're telling me. I know, because I've talked to people out there all over the country, a lot of Americans are going to hear that, and they're going to be yelling at their television. They're going to be saying that the idea that it's zero, there's nothing there. You're calling them crazy.
I'm not calling anybody crazy. I'm telling you what I know, what I've seen. And I told you, there are over 2,000 arrests a day. I can't see every arrest.
But it just comes down to zero issues, zero problems, zero comments. It's just not believable to a lot of people, including myself. No, there's nothing that you would have ICE do differently. In any of these cases, we've seen all of these videos. Nothing.
I have not seen ICE act outside of policy. And if there are acting outside of policy, I'm not aware of it, there'll be an investigation that we hold accountable.
I want to ask a bigger picture question. There's a quote from Donald Trump that's a few months old. It was to the Wall Street Journal, and I've never forgotten it. I have it down here. I'm just going to read it to you, and I want your reaction. He's talking about mass deportations. He ran on it. He was elected on it. It was a popular policy. He might have decided the election. He then goes on to say, we have a lot of good people in this country, and we have to do something about it. I'd like to see if we can do it. He's referring to the mass deportation, and he goes on, there are some human questions that get in the way of being perfect. In other words, some human questions that get in the way of getting rid of everybody who's here illegally. We have to have a heart too. Where's the heart in this?
Where's the heart in this?
Where's the heart? In the last year of
ICE is doing
operations.
everything they can to enforce the laws enacted by Congress. I just said the vast majority of everybody arrested are public safety threats to make this country safe. I want people to remember this. ICE agents, border agents, are mothers and fathers too. They don't hang their heart on the hook every day they come to work. They got a tough job. Immigration enforcement has always been controversial. Always has been, since I started in 1984.
Yeah.
It's a hard job. And look, enforcing immigration law sometimes is, just being a cop, sometimes, I've seen some terrible things in my career. I've seen some very sad things. Enforcing law sometimes is sad. But because of the actions of President Trump, thousands of lives are being saved every month. 96% less people are coming because they know there's consequences now, which means vulnerable people, the most vulnerable people in the world, aren't given criminal cartels or life savings to make that dangerous journey. Sex trafficking has plummeted. People want to talk about what the heart is? The Trump administration has already found over 129,000 children that the last administration lost track of and wasn't even looking for. And we're not going to stop till we find every one of these 300,000 missing children. Not every one of these children were in danger when we found them. Some were safe hiding out with family. But many were in sex trafficking, being sold into sex slavery. Many were into forced labor. That's the heart. The heart is a secure border saves lives. The heart is less sex trafficking is occurring. The heart is we're finding missing children. The last administration released without properly vetting who the sponsors were. We're looking for these children, and a lot of the addresses we're going to are parking lots in supermarkets. They didn't even bother not only vetting the sponsors, they didn't even check the address where these children were going to.
Mr. Holman, everything you're describing is the reason why mass deportations and the removal of criminals was a popular issue in the election. I heard about it constantly on the campaign trail. People elected Donald Trump to enact that. That is all true.
Don't make the statement that this administration has no heart.
I did not make that statement. I'm asking.
You said, where's the heart?
Because of the 30%. And I'll tell you what I hear from voters when I'm out there and why this shows up in polls.
Bro, like these media outlets are so disingenuous. Everyone here that's illegally is a criminal. There's no exceptions. They're all criminals. Bro, that's why I get pissed off with these fucking mainstream media outlets and stuff. They always misconstrue like what is a criminal exactly. What is a criminal? You know, we need to actually really have like a definite, like literally, we're in a society today where words don't mean exactly what words used to mean anymore. A criminal is someone who commits a crime. Coming here illegally is a crime. What is he talking about? Like, oh, the 35%, 45, how many percentage was it again? I'm just listening to him yapping and stuff like that. I'm just like, bro, it's a crime, regardless if you come here or not. They are criminals. Illegals are criminals by definition. What is he talking about, bro? Man, these media outlets is just so disingenuous. They're understanding what the word and like these guys were like college educated, smart for the most part, you know, but yet they misconstrue what constitutes to being a criminal, or the fact that they're so liberal in their ideology that it clouds their judgment to being realistic about exactly what constitutes as a criminal, because they don't want to come off as being racist or whatever. Bro, it's embarrassing.
There are many millions of Americans who have come here illegally. They crossed without documentation. They're now in the country. But while they crossed illegally, they have lived here morally. They have worked hard. They have married. They're members of their community. Wouldn't your life and the
they're
life of your
still
officers be a lot
not
easier if there was a path to normalization
bro, they have to have the paperwork to be here. There's no exceptions
for those folks? Is that something you can imagine supporting?
Let me ask you a question. Is that the way it should be? Enter the country illegally is a crime.
Let me tell you something.
Yes, that's a crime.
Well, hide out long enough. Go have a U.S. citizen child and you're immune. You're above the law now. No consequences. People continue making that journey, and more people are going to continue to die. What I'm saying is, if you come to this country, hide out long enough, you're successful, hide out, that sends the bad message to the rest of the world. Either don't show up in court or ignore a judge's order. We are a nation of laws. And what do you say to the millions of people that are standing in line, taking their tests, doing their background investigation, paying their fees? They're sitting in the back seat because people who cheated the system. You cross the border legally, you cheated the system. Put yourself in front of the line of all these people coming illegally, and you want to be treated better than them. What does that say to millions of people trying to play by the rules? If you want to be part of the greatest nation on earth, the first action shouldn't be violating our laws and disrespecting the laws of this country.
It's a good question, and here's the honest response to it.
And President Trump has said there are discussions ongoing with like farmers and other things. And remember Trump 45 came up with a DACA fix. Who shut it down? Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. They want to give them a wall.
I don't want to get away from this key question. Right? You ask, is that the way it should be? Should people who crossed illegally?
Is it okay to enter this country legally, sir? Is it okay to enter this country legally? Let me ask you this one question. Is it okay to enter this country legally in violation of law?
This is why I'm asking this question. For the history of this country, let me get this out. My family, many millions of families, the vast majority of families, in fact, here in America, crossed either before 1920, when there was no limitation, you just came over, they got you in. 98% of the people who came to Ellis Island walked down the gangplank, welcome to America. After the 1920s immigration restrictions, people came over from the unwanted countries of southern Italy and eastern Italy, or southern Europe, Eastern Europe, and they were here illegally. A lot of Irish, a lot of Czech, a lot of Italians, a lot of them in Texas. Guess what? The U.S. government normalized them if they hadn't committed crimes. Fast forward to the 1980s. We had a lot of immigrants from Latin America. They had crossed illegally. They were here. They were here morally.
See, I don't want to point out the obvious, but like, hell, I don't think he's noticing. It's a lot of immigrants that came from, like, immigration over years has changed over the years. Majority of the immigrants that were brought in from European countries were different compared to this now. We're bringing in them from like the third world. So that's a completely different forms of immigration. And when immigration was implemented, like if he's going to go further in detail, yeah, they were given citizenship. That was under a different immigration law compared to it is right now. Immigration has changed over the years to now it's just being abused. When they did bring in people, they brought in a certain demographic that assimilated no problem. Now they're just bringing in people that aren't assimilating, that are just taking advantage of the system. So you can't have it either way to go. It's either you bring in the right crowd that's going to come here to America and actually contribute, or you're just going to bring in a crowd that's going to take advantage of the welfare system. That's set up for them to do so. So
in their lives after the crossing, they were normalized by the million by the Reagan administration. This is how we've always actually done it in America. So what you're describing in your question is a change.
The world is different. The world is different. Let's just look at the last President Trump 45. How many people on the terrorist watch list were apprehended crossing the southern border? In 4 years, 14. How many are in Joe Biden? Over 400. We got 2.1 million known, 2.1 million known gotaways. Called on video traffic, drone traffic, central traffic. 2 million people paid more to the criminal cartels to get away. Why did 2 million people pay more? Not to get all the free giveaway. Because if you pay less, the cartel say, look, I'll pay you this lesser amount, turn myself into a green uniform, be released within 24 hours, get a free airline ticket to the city of my choice, get a free hotel room, get 3 meals a day, get free medical care, and get work authorization after 90 days. Why did 2 million people choose to pay more, not to take advantage of that giveaway program? They didn't want to be vetted, they didn't want to be fingerprinted. This just scared out everybody. This world is different today. We know, and Tulsi Gabbard's been clear about this, we have thousands of people that are terrorists in this country, and we're trying to find them. The world isn't the same it was back then. And here's the issue. When the Biden administration created this humanitarian crisis on purpose, it wasn't an accident, it wasn't incompetence, they meant to open that border up. They overwhelmed the Border Patrol. And you've been down there many times. On average, 70% of agents were pulled off the line to deal with this humanitarian crisis. And the criminal cartels took advantage of that. It created gaps. That's when the sex trafficking women and children went sky high. That's when the gang members crossed with no impediment because Border Patrol's off the line. That's when the fentanyl came across, killed 250,000 Americans. That's when the no-inspected terrorists skyrocketed. I wake up every day, go to bed every night, knowing we got over 2 million known gotaways. Who are they? Where they came from? So it's a different world today. A secure border means you have stronger national security. A secure border saves lives.
One final question on Venezuela. Clearly, the Maduro regime was dangerous in the eyes of the U.S. government. We just launched a raid to remove him. At the very same time, the administration has removed protections for Venezuelans here who fled that danger. How does that make sense?
Well, that's Secretary.
Their country's liberated now. They can go home.
Homeland Security and the State Department works very closely on that. But I'll say this, temporary protective status. I've been doing this since 1984. I don't think I've ever seen TPS be temporary. It's extended, gets extended. The law clearly says when the conditions of the country change, then that TPS should end. So that's in litigation right now, so I'm not going to comment on ongoing litigation, but we look back over all the TPS programs in the last 40 years. Look how many were actually temporary.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Mr. Holman, I appreciate you being so open and honest in all this.
I appreciate the chance to sit down.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
All right, so we pretty much covered everything we need to cover. We covered the video, we covered the facts on the ground, we covered eyewitnesses. We had interviews done by former federal agents that were on the job, that understand the job. Then we have Tom Homan. You know, we got both sides of the political aisle. You know, we got CNN, we got Fox News. So my assessment at the end of this, and I'll just go ahead and then I'm going to close out afterwards. My assessment is that this woman was brought out here by her wife as basically like a support for her because her wife who's a lesbian and obviously a very progressive activist and probably paid by George Soros, goes out there. They try to impede and try to stop ICE from doing their raids, to where basically this just led to her losing her life just by her being there. And she's not even involved in politics. She's not a political woman. She's not involved at all in politics whatsoever. but her wife is, and her wife decided to bring her out there, which led to her ultimately losing her life. So this is a tragedy, of course, and I don't try to make light of it or whatever, but I mean, we have to look at it from history. Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and then the left was praising his death, making memes about it. Hell, some people even dressed up in shirts about Charlie Kirk when he got killed. Like, I make no mistake about it. The left wants people like me, people like a lot of guys on the right dead, because they're insane. They hate people that just have a different opinion than them. They don't want to debate. They just want to kill you. So, like I said, that's the assessment today of the show. This woman, she was in the wrong. It ultimately cost her life. I'm sad to hear that a child's going to be without a mother, even though technically speaking, it was her fault for even agreeing to go to this event instead of staying home and being a mother for her child and getting involved in this meaningless protest that cost her a life. So my takeaway from this is that, look, stop doing this stupid crap and go work your jobs and live your lives and let federal agents do their jobs. Okay? Stop trying to impede on federal agents doing their jobs. That's my takeaway from this. These leftists a lot of these people need to be locked up, need to be put in insane asylums. And Tim Walz needs to be impeached and being put in prison. The same thing with his butt buddy, Jacob Fried. They also need to both be locked up. And yeah, that's my takeaway from this. That's what I took away out of this. And yeah, so we've pretty much covered everything. And yeah, I already gave you the legality aspect out of it. So if people want to debate me about that or disagree, whatever, take it up with the law. I mean, a literal former assistant director, lawyer from the District of New York, literally just told you himself the ICE agents wasn't right under the law. So, but that's it. I'll see you guys tomorrow at I guess the news start time will probably be 1 p.m. I'll probably I'll turn the stream on live at 12:30, and then I won't go on the air until like 1 o'clock exactly. So, but anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow. I want to thank you for joining me today and tonight in America. And I'll make sure you leave a like, of course, as always, and leave us any comments if you get any disagreements or whatever. I'll most likely go through some of them later if I'm not too busy. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.